Welcome back, everybody, to the Meet the Bus podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Reckes, and this week we are back for episode 19. Took last week off, as you guys probably noticed. We're just kind of in the middle of things right now. Just want to get out in front of this, just as a little quick announcement. This is going to be the last episode we have with our wonderful editor, Eric. He's currently moving out to Washington State. He's moving on up in the world, working for Peloton now. I don't know if he wants me to tell anybody that. Maybe he'll bleep that out for me. But yeah, dude, he's doing big things. It's just me, Grant, and Eric since the beginning, and we're just really appreciative of everything he's done for this podcast. Without him, I don't know how we do this every week, so thank you to Eric for everything he's done. But without further ado, let's introduce our guest for the week. He marched Genesis in 2019 and 2021, Santa Clara Vanguard in 2022, marched Blue Devils in 2023, and will be with them again this summer for 2024. He's also the founder of DrumCorpsLink. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Ida. Welcome onto the podcast, good sir. How are we doing this week?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good, yeah.
I totally noticed. I think I said, did I do that? Did I say DrumCorpsLink? What a nerd I am. Did I just break the own drum corps silent rule? Never say cores or whatever? Okay. What a nerd I am, dude.
Some people say DrumCorpsLink on accident, and it's just
I should have done that, actually. If I was going to say anything wrong, I should have done that one. That was definitely the thing. Let the people know what you're doing, man. Where are you from? What you been up to lately? What's the good word?
Yeah, so I am from Houston, Texas. I know my shirt says San Antonio. I just got this when I was in San Antonio.
Big fan, dude.
But I know, right? But I'm from Houston, Texas. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I've been here pretty much my whole life. Did the whole high school band thing. I actually didn't march the first 2 years of my high school band because I had a heart problem. I had a huge heart murmur, a lot of palpitations that I didn't even know what that was really until my doctor found out when I was 16. They were like, wait a second, I think you have a heart murmur. And then we checked it out and realized I had an inch hole in my heart, which is the reason why I was not a super physical kid as a kid. And so we got that fixed up in January of 2018. Wow. And then I finally got to start marching my junior year of high school. And that's when our director kind of mentioned, he was like, hey, some of you guys look good enough to maybe try out for drum corps. And I know for a fact he was not talking about me, but I thought he was at the time. I was like, oh, he's talking about me. And so because of that, I then tried out for the Boston Crusaders as a 16-year-old. And then I tried out for Phantom Regiment.
Yes.
Neither of those really worked out. I could have gone to the Phantom Regiment callback camp, but they kind of told me that's not going to be super possible. You don't have amazing chances. And so then I went to Genesis, which was really nice because it's in Texas. It was a 2.5 hour drive away. So super easy. Went to Genesis, got a contract on the first camp, and then it's kind of just been history from there.
Absolutely.
After 2019, I then auditioned for a bunch of corps, got cut from Blue Devils, got cut from Blue Stars, actually. But I got a contract at Vanguard. And so that's kind of where my journey with Vanguard started. I then did Wait For Me. And, that was kind of just a whole mess. And then I was going to do 23, of course. And
we know what happens there.
Yeah. Vanguard was an interesting story. I was with them basically for 4 years and only got to march one season. So that was definitely an unfortunate situation, but
absolutely,
yeah. And then with with DrumCorpsLink, I just basically made a very big packing list to try to help as many people as possible. I kind of realized that there's not a lot of education outside of actually doing drum corps. There's not education about drum corps. There's just, hey, you're doing drum corps, you're getting taught. It's actually a big gripe of mine is that a lot of corps don't really talk about how
tips
to do
tricks.
drum corps. Exactly. They don't actually talk about how to do drum corps. It's just you show up and you're just kind of thrown into it. And
you learn teach you how from experience.
Yeah, they'll teach you how to march and they'll teach you how to play really well. They'll teach you how to look good on the field, but that's about it. They won't sometimes they won't even tell you how you can audition. They're literally just like, hey, go to our website. And then that's
pay the fee and show up and we got you.
So I kind of realized there was a huge gap there and I was like, that's kind of lame. So I just asked myself, I'm like, if I was restarting, what would I want to see? Yeah. And I kind of went from there. It was going to be a lot more than what it is now.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't actually have the skills to do that. So instead I just set up a pretty basic website and it's just a big packing list. It was, at least. It's a lot more than that now. But for the first year, I think I launched it March of 2023. And
Yeah.
it's just a giant packing list to try to help as many people as possible. It's completely free. And then from there, I do the whole TikTok thing. I do
Yeah.
Instagram now too. Yeah, I'm just trying to
It's like
teach
the most
people.
member friendly like page I've ever seen where it's
Yeah,
really like curated for the member. Like not only
yeah,
are you doing like, people might do the packing list from time to time, but like to also have that and then also to have like the inside drum corps jokes from TikTok and
hmm
then like giving tips about like auditions and
yeah,
what you should and should not do and just little tips for like being on the road like
hmm
that helps so many people, especially now. And
yeah,
we're in a time where drum corps, even though we've rebuilt now at this point, there's still going to be a lot of people who are marching for the first time who
hmm
are looking for tips and tricks on how to do this thing. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
was kind of curious. Like we've kind of we know the inspiration. It kind of came from like an educational standpoint, but
Mhm.
where are you trying to take it?
So really, this past year is really when it blew up. So I did the
Yeah,
packing list, and that's when like it got used a ton, it got shared a ton, which is nice. And I was about half the audience that I am now when
yeah,
when it first came out. So about a year ago, I was about halfway to where I am now, probably even less than half. I was about like 3,800 when I first posted the packing list. And it was still just like I would
pretty
post
good.
maybe every 3 days. I think
Yeah,
it was crazy that it got so much attention that it did. I posted, I think, 3 videos total
wow,
advertising the website, and it
yeah,
got as much as it did to help
wow.
pack, which is nice. The fact that, just a ton of people were sharing it, it got really big. It was,
Yeah. Did that happen right away, or was it kind of over the course of time, or was it kind of just like early on when you started? It was like the
honestly,
packing list, and it's like a bunch of people hopped on.
yeah, honestly, it happened right away because I had the website actually for over a year at that point, and
Wow.
I was trying to have it be packing list plus agency plus audition help plus a
Mm.
blog plus this, like so many different things at once. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't have any of these things done, but I do have the packing list done. I'm
We
just
can
going
do
to turn
that.
the entire page into a one-page website that has the packing list. Boom, it's done. And so as soon as I officially actually launched it, literally it went from a year of almost no progress
Yeah.
to in a week I was able to launch the website with just the packing list. And
Yeah.
then it was like first week of March, I think that I actually launched it. And as soon as I started posting about it and took pictures for it and everything like that, it took less than a week for it to start really blowing up. And then from March to basically middle of May, when people start actually going in, that's how
Yeah.
it got really big. So,
Oh my
but
god.
yeah, where I'm trying to go with DrumCorpsLink, the first year, whenever I came back from Blue Devils, so this is
Hmm.
after I had launched it in March earlier that year, and
Yeah.
then I just marched to summer with Blue Devils, and we ended up winning and all that stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
The fact that I now had Blue Devils in my back pocket, a lot of people just started listening to me just simply because Blue Devils,
Yeah.
which is good, but also kind of bad. It's like,
Yeah. Has its
the fact
ups
that
and
I
downs
have,
with that.
yeah, the fact that I have to be in like the best core ever for people to even listen to me
Yeah. It
is
comes
kind of
with its
lame.
positives because it's like
Yeah,
they're gonna look to you being in BD, but then
yeah.
also with that, if you say anything like, "Oh, what a nerd," whatever. Like,
Well, yeah, it's not even that. It's like, oh, this guy's in BD, and so we have to listen to him. But it's also like, yeah, but if I was in any other core, would you still listen to me? And it's like,
true.
in most
Okay, that's
cases,
real.
no.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think it's super unfair because I feel like I had the same exact knowledge, well, mostly the same exact knowledge from just being in Vanguard than I did at Blue Devils. But when I was
Right.
in Vanguard, very little
Nothing.
views, very little anything. Blue Devils, oh, wow, I got to follow this guy. And so, I mean, it's nice because I was in BD,
It
but at
helped
the
you
same
out,
time,
right?
yeah, at the
But
same
like
time, it's
seeing what
like,
it
oh, this really
it took to
stinks.
get there for this to do that, just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
going to
yeah,
BD, it's like,
yeah.
well,
Because I know there's
yeah,
a few people where it's like they do the activity, but they weren't like in BD or anything like that, and
yeah.
sometimes it's hard for them to get things off the ground, and I think it's really dumb because it's like you would think
Right
I
here,
know it's
dude.
like you would think
Right
that
here.
just having experience in drum corps and being
Yeah.
especially pre-COVID, it's like if you marched pre-COVID and you were anywhere near the top 12, you know a lot and you're probably really really good. But
Yeah.
people don't know that now. People like as soon as 2020 happened and as soon as 22 shows up, it's like you're in a top 4 core, I'll listen to you. If you're
Right, but
not,
anything else, trash. And it's like, bro,
exactly.
that is nuts. Because like
Um,
I would argue there are so many like 1 to 15 there are better 1 to 15 shows this past summer that I watched. Like in 2023, 1 to 15 better shows than maybe 2019, 2018 for sure. I think in my mind, definitely
2018, I think
2017.
so. Yeah, 2018 was
Maybe
very top
2019 was
heavy.
a great year, but I would say like 2018 and 2017, you could put 1 through 15 this year against that
Yeah.
1 through
Yeah, I
15.
think
Like,
so. I think
well,
2019 was huge where it's like all
yeah,
the way until even top 10, even sometimes 11 and 12 were like really good shows.
yeah,
Whereas like, yeah, 2018 I feel was pretty top heavy with like the top 5.
100%.
And then 2017, kind of the same thing with probably only just like the top 3, if I'm being
3.
honest. Anyways, so I go back in August. I start finally teaching for the first time. And with teaching, the season's over and it's audition season. Like
Yeah,
immediately, as soon as you get back August, all eyes are on audition season. And so I'm getting a
yeah.
ton of questions on TikTok, actually, because without really posting anything, I went from 3,800 to like 5,400 over the summer. And I didn't post anything.
Yeah,
I just passively got like 2,000 followers on my TikTok.
that's
And so
incredible.
I've got all these new followers that are asking me questions.
Yeah,
And so I'm literally posting probably 4 to 5 times a day, answering these questions at night, just being like, here's what showering's like. Here's what touring's like. Here's what a day is
yeah.
going to look like. Here's what an audition looks like. Here's what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And so eventually I'm like, I should just start coaching, like actually teaching,
Right.
And so I did. I didn't really want to do Zoom lessons. I didn't really want to do anything crazy because live in person drum corps lessons is kind of hard. They're going to have to be able to set up their camera at a football field and
When
have
you're
good
saying like
connection.
teaching and coaching, what are you trying to
Okay,
like?
so teaching was I'm at a school and I'm teaching. Like
Yeah,
I'm a marching tech.
yeah.
And then coaching is one-on-one. So I had students, basically what they did, they paid a one-time fee of $50, and then they had unlimited access to me, where they could send in as many videos of them marching as they possibly can,
Okay,
as they
cool.
possibly want to, and I give them feedback on every single video, and I send videos
Yeah.
back of like, hey, here's what you should do better. What ended up happening is that every student that actually used that service now has a contract somewhere.
Wow.
So that was a little bit of a good thing for me where I was like, okay, maybe I'm not
This is
too bad at
working.
teaching. Yeah, it's
Like my
working. But
advice
also
worked. Damn.
I'm like, hey, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. So that
Yeah.
was a little bit nice. It was nice for me to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I think what I'm trying to do, this is from a question like 5-10 minutes ago, I'm not sure. But what I'm trying to do with DrumCorpsLink is a lot more educational, a
Yeah.
lot less like gatekeeping of the activity, where it's like
Yes.
my primary goal. I watch a little bit of like business content here and there, just to help navigate stuff. A lot of them say to envision what you want your ideal customer to be. And so for me, I'm
Oh.
like, yeah, I want a 16 to 18-year-old boy or girl that plays an instrument that wants to do drum corps. So how would I structure my content? How would I structure my
How would
business
you
around those
market that?
people? And it's like, well, I have teaching, which is good.
Yeah.
And then I want it to be where they show up on day one and they've got a rough idea of what's about to happen to them for those
Yeah.
85 days. Not like, hey, I show up for day one and, oh, we're doing
I'm
12-hour days.
blindsided by
And
all of these
not,
things and all of
yeah,
these nuances in the activity that they don't
exactly.
talk about online.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal, is to do that. So I'm just like, what do I need to produce to help that? And so, we're going to start posting like interviews of other people. So a lot of these unique
Absolutely.
situations that I don't know anything about, these people do. And I
Yeah.
can post their stories, and they can, help curate more content, more community, where it's like, what's it like switching instruments? I marched trumpet
Yeah.
last year, but I want to march mellow this year. We can find people that have done that. They can talk about their experience. And so, yeah, just people that look at the DrumCorpsLink page, you can show up day one and you kind of know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
You've used the packing list, so you have a full suitcase that's going to help you last the whole summer. Maybe you've taken coaching from the service and you're at a pretty high level where it's like, it's not going to be a struggle to get there. We might do a little bit of workout stuff. I think Forte Athletics have been doing a great job
Yeah.
there.
No,
So
he
it's
does a
like, I don't
great
want to,
job.
I don't want to step on any toes, but as someone who prepares for marching myself, the one thing that I have over Forte Athletics, and this is not like a super competition thing, but it's just I'm
Yeah.
still in the activity. So it's
Right.
like, how does a current performer prepare for the activity?
Yes.
I think that's the only way I could probably actually
Right,
some
because
like
you
fitness
know
content.
what you're about to go through because the
Exactly.
last 2 summers you've been current with everything. So you kind of know
Yeah.
like what you need to do to get your body ready to go
Yeah.
through all of that stuff.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the only fitness stuff I would do. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you took coaching, so you're a good marcher. You learned about a little bit of how to work out and prepare for it. You know some maybe even like some mental exercises like what's going to happen? How can I get ready for a show? How do I know what to perform? How do I know how
Yeah.
to lock in
Audition tips
or
too
get
for
things? Yeah.
like mental audition things. I think would be like the coolest thing to hear because I think for
Mhm.
me that's the biggest struggle I had coming up as like a 16 to an 18-year-old is going to these auditions. Like so much of it you can prepare all you want at home and feel
Mhm.
confident about what you're preparing and feel confident about how you sound and everything.
Mhm.
But when you get in the room, you can't like at that age it's really hard to prepare yourself for how your brain is going to react and your like nervous system to,
Yeah.
these different players, especially as trumpet players, which by the way we didn't
Yes.
mention you're a trumpet player, but
Yes, I am a trumpet player.
going into these audition rooms, especially for a music audition, when you get pulled out, like you and two others, and you start warming up, and there's like the one little kid in the corner who starts playing like above the staff and everything, and you're like 16, you're like, I can't do that yet, dude. Am I like someone's playing Get a Key in the corner over here? You're like, bro, I brought like something from my high school, and you're like, can I
Yeah.
even? And so you start doing all these mental gymnastics, like when you get into visual, like you're looking at. I remember for myself when I went to
Mhm.
Boston at 16, and we're sitting down and we're getting to meet everybody, and half the section are these older people who are like, yeah, I go to Indiana University. I'm a junior there, music performance major. Oh, I
Yeah.
go to Juilliard. Oh, I go to this like really good music school, and you're like, I go to a high school in St. Charles, Missouri, and they're like, you're cut.
Mhm.
Like you're done. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
let's hear
Yeah,
what
you're
you got,
cooked, bro.
right?
You're
And
cooked. You just know it. I know
you
it's
start
so
listening to
bad.
everybody around you, you're like, oh my God, how do you like keep your cool and realizing like the confidence you kind of have to remember in yourself? It's like, no, I've prepared. I can do all these things. I
Yeah,
think that's going to be
yeah.
huge because it's like, I would have loved to hear just like as someone who has done it, talking to somebody who hasn't, just like, hey, these are the things you might experience when you go into an
Mhm,
audition room, or
mhm.
even when you get there day one of move-ins. Like, here's some things to look out for and how you can,
Yeah,
prepare for that.
yeah. Yeah, if anything, it's like I'm trying to take more of like the kind of like Big Brother approach, really, where it's like,
Yeah,
especially with TikTok, it's like I just want to be able to relate to them and be like, yeah, I've been there before. One thing about the nervousness and audition anxiety stuff, I'm gonna be honest, I really haven't felt that too much. I think the
you're
only
lucky.
time, which is why like I almost don't like that I don't really experience because it's like
Yeah,
it's a hard time for me to empathize a lot of times
because you're
where
like, bro, just be good.
well no not necessarily good but
I'm
yeah it's
kidding.
just like
I'm kidding. I'm
yeah
kidding.
because I'm far from good but but it's just no matter how prepared I was no matter what it's like it's never been an issue for me of like just being able to calm myself and calm my
Yeah.
nerves. I think the only time where it's been hard to really calm my nerves
Mhm.
was 2020 auditioning for Blue Devils. I think it was the only time. But as soon as I walked into the room and said hi to Chip, I felt fine. So it's like it was more the anticipation of that.
Yeah.
And so I in the off season I actually asked a lot of people of like what they do with audition anxiety. And that's kind of been
Yeah.
the thing where it's like if I don't know something, I'm going to ask a lot of my friends because they usually do. And
Yeah.
so for audition anxiety, it started with I just kind of gave like generic advice of like just do mock auditions and just like try to do some mental reps through it. But for me, I'm like, I have no idea. Because I haven't had to combat it. And it's not
Yeah.
even like I don't know, it's not a flex or anything. It's just, I just didn't know how to combat it. I've never learned strategies to combat
Right.
audition anxiety because I just haven't
You just didn't
felt it
experience it
really.
like
Yeah,
that, which is
I don't.
also that's a fair thing too. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people will have that as well. I think that's like, and that's just as valid as anybody who's walking in there just being like overthinking every single entire thing, being like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I hope I
Hmm.
do this. Like, bro,
Yeah.
it was for me, like, I was an overthinker down to like who I sat at lunch with, like,
Yeah.
who I
Wow.
needed to sit with at lunch, who I need to sit
Yeah.
with dinner, because I was like, bro, I need to be able to, like, I need to talk to these people. I need to get over here. Like,
Hmm.
that was, of course, younger me when I'm coming up like 15, 16, 17, being like, I'm this little kid coming from wherever, and there's all these college kids. I'm like, bro, you got to say something. Like, I know everyone knows you're the 15 and 16-year-old in the room, but you got to say something to somebody. Like, no one's out here to help you, bro. And it was just like, because I don't know if you ever experienced this at all auditioning, but once again, I said this before we started recording. I'm not going to age myself out here. I'm 22 years old, but when I started auditioning in 2016, there were some rooms I went in and places I went to that were very cutthroat. Now, I don't know if that was intentional by the groups themselves, but the people who would go in these rooms, like, very cutthroat. Like, it was lucky if you could catch like 2-3 friends out of that weekend, because like, especially being a trumpet and you go in there with like 50 other trumpets, and like, especially if it's like a January or something like that, they're like, bro, I'm trying to take your spot. Like, that's just how it is. Like, we're trying to, and like, when I got to Blue Nights in 19, it was finally the first time I felt like I walked in and everyone's like, oh no, come hang out. Like, if you don't make it, it was really nice meeting you. Like, if you do, hey, what's up? Like, it was kind of just like that. And I feel like it's getting, I mean, you've been there, you can speak to it, but I think it's gotten more of that vibe where it's like, hey, like, you know, just come hang, and like, if you don't make it, like, try again next year or go somewhere else, and just like, you know, nice meeting you. And if you do, like, let's go.
Yeah. I think the activities definitely softened up a little bit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, for some things maybe, but for other things it's not. Like, I definitely think fostering a good culture like that of just like, hey, it's an audition, yes, but at the same time, it's like, if you focus more on what can you learn from the activity, what can you learn from this camp, can you make some friends along the way, things like that, I think it's definitely a better approach. I do think in some ways it can be a little bit damaging, because sometimes corps go almost a little bit overboard with that, where, you know, it used to be very malicious of like, oh, we're going to call you back 4 times and then we're going to cut you in April. But now it's more like, oh, you know, you're almost there. We don't want to cut you. Like, there'll be corps where they're like, it's January camp, and they're like, you know, we're not cutting anybody. It's not this, because I think they don't want to ruin people's chances or hurt people's feelings or anything like that.
Yeah,
and I've heard a few things of like corps haven't
like,
cut,
but not just giving it to you straight. You know, kind of bringing you back along.
And so it's good. It's just overcorrection. And I think eventually, now that we're slowly rebuilding more and more, like hopefully 25, 26, it doesn't happen anymore. But I know specifically this year, there have been a few where it's just like, hey, nobody's cut. And it's like, okay, so nobody's cut and we're going into February. That's really tough. Like, how do we still have callbacks in February? That's a really tough thing. So you need to find a healthy medium between, hey, you didn't make it, you should try again next year, or you should go to this corps and try it that way.
Like, by January, I feel like we should know. Like, January, we should know the line. Like, the people who, you know, are on that bubble, but like probably aren't, like, let's just cut their losses. Because they should have an opportunity to go find a new place. Like, don't drag them all the way and then be like, oh, sorry, but you were so great. And we love that you paid that audition fee, but we're good on that. It's like, we would rather, like, you want them to have all that experience of being like, no, hey, cool. Like, you're not at this level yet, but here's some places where, like, go check this out, because I got holes. Like, go check this out. Like,
especially at the top corps. Like, when you're at the top corps and you already have a huge audition pool, like, it shouldn't take too long to figure out who you need. I think that's one thing that I really like about the Blue Devils, is that at January, that's when we set everything. Like, we only need 2 camps. It's like your first camp and then the callback camp, and you're good. Like, that's they'll know, because they have such a huge experience. And not every corps has that privilege, I think. Not every corps has a staff for that long. Not every corps has that many auditionees.
Yeah, that's true too.
And so, you know, sometimes I could maybe see it, but I think especially if you're like a top 5 corps, I don't think there's any excuse for it, really.
Like,
it's
January,
just like,
and just be
you should know at that point, like, okay, this person is up to standard, this person isn't up to standard. And then if someone's like, this person isn't up to standard, but we only have 23 trumpets contracted right now and we need a 24th one, then it's like, okay, well, who is at the highest level of the
to be 24,
or maybe to be number 24. But also, if you're at one of the top corps, I feel like you call back enough people where that doesn't really happen usually. So it's just tough, because I've heard of top corps doing that this year. I've heard of kind of middle of the pack corps doing that, and I've heard of like some lower world class corps, same thing. We're just like, just just cut people. Like, it'll be
Yeah, like it's
okay.
hard. It is like it's the hardest part of the
Hmm.
process getting to the season is having to tell people like you didn't make it.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part of the whole thing. Like being
Mhm.
somebody who got cut 3 years in a row before getting into top. Like, listen, I got used to it by then, but it doesn't mean it's easy. Like that
Yeah.
third year where they're like, hey, no, you did. Like
Hmm.
it's tough, but like you need to know because you need to
Hmm.
be able to have that option to go to another group and like hone in
Exactly.
on your craft and hone in on your skills and go to the right place. You want to give them
Yeah.
time too to like if you're like, hey, like you're not at this level, but like 3 cores down, you could probably go there. And I know some people there, like they would really help you work on your craft.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think that's also huge too. I'm gonna jump back here. We've been talking a lot about just drum corps overall, but I kind of want to jump in
Hmm.
a little bit about your career here.
Yeah.
We're gonna gloss over Genesis, SCV, BD, all the good stuff. Kind of want to hear
Okay.
about everything, but
Yeah, of course.
we were talking about nerves just overall in the audition room, and you were like, never really experienced anything like that. First off, how old were you when you left for Genesis that first time in 2019?
I was 16.
16. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So, like, when you left for the first time, like, and you leave for the summer, you go for day one of spring training, was that your first time, like, leaving home for that extended period of time, like, in your life up to that point?
No, not technically.
No?
I had done a Boy Scouts camp when I
Uh-huh.
was, I think, 13, maybe. I did a
Okay.
Boy Scouts camp that was for a week. That
Yeah.
was hard. That was really hard.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I'd been away for that long, and
Yeah.
I hated it. I hated it so much. But
Yeah.
then I did Sam Houston band camp, and that was
Okay.
staying away for, I think, 4 days maybe, so like three
Right.
nights, and then U of H as well, same thing, 3 nights
Right.
there, and then U of H again for 3 nights.
Mhm.
So it wasn't my first time. It was my first time being away for that long though, and kind of the same thing. Like, it wasn't too scary. It really
No.
wasn't. I kind of showed up day one, and I kind of knew for a little bit like what was about to happen. I think my band director did kind of set a good base for me, where he was like, the people that do this are the ones that are obsessed with this activity. The people that do this activity are the ones that stay after during high school marching band, and they
Like, first
practice
in the
a lot
practice
more.
room, last out.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I was very much not that person, by the way. Um, I was
Same.
definitely not. I was definitely not that person. But
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed drum corps. I
Yeah.
really did, because I was a mediocre trumpet player and I was a
Mhm.
mediocre visual person. But put them together, I was pretty damn good at it. And so, I show up to my first day, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is my life now. And
Yeah.
honestly, it was pretty easy the first summer. The first summer was pretty easy at
Yeah.
Genesis.
I was kind of curious just about that summer overall because that's your
Mhm.
10th anniversary summer for the core
Yeah.
overall, young group overall, but like still anniversary year regardless.
Mhm.
I'm curious because this is like Genesis, what, second or third year in world class at this point because they had just moved
Yes.
up
Yeah.
from open.
Our
Okay,
third
cool.
year. Third year at that
Third
point.
year. Right. So at that point, world class 10th anniversary season, anything like that, is there any sort of like expectation, like competitive wise, about like what you guys are trying to do? Or is it more of just like a celebration of the 10th anniversary and like what the drum corps is?
I think it was more of just a celebration. I think it was definitely hard. In 2018, there was a lot of stuff that happened for Genesis.
Absolutely.
And I don't really want to go into that. It's a long story. So,
Absolutely.
but it was more of just a celebration. We had, I think, 8 vets total in the horn line. That's how bad 2018 was, as in
Wow.
nobody came back. So, yeah, that was fun. We had a cool show theme. We had
Yeah.
props that were pretty dang cool. So that's how it was, and we were kind of figuring out how to do the thing. We were
Yeah.
all working together. We were getting really good, learning how to learn a drum corps show, things like that. And this is how I knew kind of like drum corps was my thing. It was day
Hmm.
3, and we played the core song.
Yeah.
We played Pure Imagination,
Hmm.
and I was bawling my eyes out and they were like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Like, drum corps hard, drum corps hard. And
No, it's what I'm feeling
yeah,
about
I'm
this
like,
right now.
I'm not crying because it's hard. I
I
love
know.
this, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, that was the day 3. We were in, we
This
were in
is
the
for me.
cafeteria, and yeah, that's how I knew. I was like, this is the activity that I am in love with this. Like, I love it. We've done 2 days. I am physically destroyed. but I'm having the time of my life. And
This is what I want to do. Like, this is why I'm here, you know?
Exactly. So I fell in love with the process of just doing spring training. Like, spring training was
You're crazy.
for me the easiest part. Yeah, it's
You're
funny.
crazy for that.
I actually
It's
did.
crazy.
I know. I actually did a poll on my Instagram of like,
Yeah.
do you guys prefer spring training or do you prefer tour?
We all prefer tour.
Of course, I answered my own poll, and I was the only person that answered spring training. I was the only one. I
That's
answered
honestly
spring training,
crazy.
and every person that answered the poll answered tour. And so I was like, okay, I am insane, I think. So, but yeah, I fell in love with everything. I made a ton of friends. I was emotional pretty much the whole summer because I fell in love with the activity so hard.
Absolutely.
And honestly, like, probably the best moment ever was climbing up those ladders for our ballot hit and playing for our.
That was
That
definitely your
ballad
guys'
was
moment of the
yes,
summer for
that
you
was
guys.
the moment. That was the moment. And
Yeah.
I just remember, like, every time we went up and did that moment, I could see jaws drop. Like, it was Genesis. Who knows Genesis? Nobody knows Genesis. But you walk up, and at that point, I'm on a ladder. I can see over everything, and I can see the entire crowd, and I can see jaws drop. I can see people do, this
You
kind
can
of
see
move.
like the kids be like, "Oh my god!"
I can see parents go like this, and I can see just everything. And we hit them, and because we're standing still, when we're standing still, we sounded pretty damn good.
Definitely was the most polished part of the show. I'm not gonna lie. Like all of a sudden, the whole show on the move. That ballad happens. Everyone gets up on the ladder. I'm like, damn. Sounds like a finalist
Yeah,
horn.
yeah. I mean, we were pretty damn good for that ballad hit, for the ballad hit. And so we do that, and that was like what we did. I think 19 shows total, and best moment every single time. Get to semis, and yeah, we just you hear the echo at the end of the ballad too, and that echo for whatever reason, I mean not whatever reason, it's actually really important, and I'm surprised after 2019, I didn't really hear this comment too much, except for 22, but we'll get into that. But it's like we only focused on how do we release the note, and we release with a breath, right?
Yep.
We only focus on that, and they're like, when you release with a breath, that's how everything sounds good. And so we actually could play pretty well together as a horn line because all we cared about were entrances and exits. We didn't care about tone quality.
Just
we didn't care about tuning. We didn't care about any of that. It's like, can we start the note together? Can we end the note together? And that's what made us, we sounded pretty good in most cases.
I mean, you're a younger group overall, so you have to start at the bottom and make a building block. So it's like, listen, if we can do something right, can we just get our entrances and our releases right?
Yes.
And then everything else we can try. But like we need the two basic things for playing. We need that to happen.
Yeah. And to 100%. Be fair, focusing on tone quality and tuning, bro, most of the people that were in that horn line didn't have good tone quality, and most of them could not figure out tuning. So it's like there's no reason.
If you don't have good tone quality like that, how are you going to tune it? Yeah.
Exactly. The only issue I really have with Genesis is the fact that almost every year seems like a reset year because they then fired the brass caption head.
Was that Andy Grindle?
Yes. They then got rid of the brass caption head. And same thing in 21. They had a brass caption head. And the next year, going into 22, they got rid of him again. Jeez. And so that's the biggest thing for Genesis where I'm like, it's really hard. I loved my time there. But at the same time, it's like, it's a new
You have to have
almost
some foundation and some sort of consistency to build a program up. Like, that was a problem we had at Oregon. Like, through my whole drum corps career, I never had the same staff twice in 5 years. Never had the same staff twice. And that's a problem. That's why groups like BD, who have this, like, long list of staff, like, it's only long like that because they keep bringing so many back. Like, all they do is just add on to what they have, which is already great. They're like, sure, bring a couple more people over so that the people who have already been here for, like, I think Scott Johnson's going to come up on his 45th summer this year with BD. So it's like, let's just bring in the younger generation to keep inspiring the staff we already have here. Let's not get rid of that tradition and things that have built this drum corps, but let's just keep inspiring. And then it's like, that's probably, why they win every year. Crazy thoughts, but it's just like, you have to have some consistency. So not only you can build as a group, but like the members will want to come back for that staff and all that. And I really like that you guys focused on just doing your thing and focusing on the technique and focusing on the easy stuff that needs to be done. Because like 2017 is my example of just like, we had a group just like that of like maybe 8 vets in the horn line. And we were trying so hard to like, the whole mindset was like, this is a finalist show. And that just kept getting put in our brain. And I'm like, but we suck as like a horn line. And this show, design-wise, sucks. We've talked about it plenty of times on the podcast. That's fine. But like, it just, we're focusing on all the wrong things instead of just the basics and who we are and learning how to do this thing. It was so much of like, we're going to push you to Saturday night because you can do that. This drum corps has a potential. It's like, bro, let's be good at our instruments and let's be performing our show like to the best of our ability first, and then we can start thinking about that. I'm like, because I hear I'm like, bro, that's how it should be for a group that has 8 vets. You're not going to be able to like. You have to teach. You really got to focus on teaching more than like the competitive aspect. So I really do. I like that a lot. But I was curious about overall, like for a rookie year experience. Since, you're looking with DrumCorpsLink, you're looking to give advice out, just helping new people coming up. What advice would you give to rookies out there who are coming up right now?
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to focus on getting as comfortable as possible in the environment that you're in as fast as possible. So I tell people as soon as like day 1 starts, try in those first 2 to 3 days to establish a routine. If you can do that, that's going to get you through spring training. And for most people, spring training is the hardest part. If in those 3 days you can establish that routine, then you don't have to think about the other 18 to 24 days. You can just kind of do your thing for those.
And if I can do this days. For 4 hours to the 4 hours to the whatever. What was your kind of routine?
Basically, I would always wake up, usually like 5 to 10 minutes before the rest of the core. My body was just good at doing that for whatever reason. I basically just splash my face with water, which is I don't do any of this stuff in real life, by the way. For whatever reason, spring training just turns me into the Winter Soldier or whatever. Like, I don't know. They say the keywords of like, good morning, Genesis. And I'm just,
no, I'm good.
I'm locked in, bro. So but yeah, wake up a few minutes before the core, just kind of splash my face. I then prepare a drink. I always have a separate water bottle. And what I put in that separate water bottle is creatine. And I put 1 serving of Mio Energy, which it's like, it has caffeine in it, but it has like 62 grams.
It's not going to be enough to make you like fly off the wall.
Yeah. It's like, that's going to like slightly get me up. And that's just because there's a little bit of grogginess. Like, again, in real life, I'm not really a huge caffeine person. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink any of that. Like, so I'm very much a natural energy kind of person. But, 100%. after a few days, it gets
12 hours a day of doing this drum corps. It's really hard. And your body does not want to wake up when the drum major says good morning.
Yeah. So, I drink that, usually make sure all my clothes are laid out the night before. And so I wake up, put on the clothes that I'm wearing that day, and then prepare the drink. And then I'm usually, as soon as the food truck opens or as soon as breakfast starts, I'm right there. So I'm usually one of the first person or first couple of people in the line. I then eat breakfast. I've got plenty of time to eat breakfast. I'm usually done by the time some people even show up to breakfast.
Wow.
At that point, I go to the restroom. I make sure I have all my stuff prepared, and then I'm able to chill. Like there were times where I was done with everything, and I still had 30 minutes before block. So it's like I got very efficient with my time.
Yeah, which is like most rookies' problem in the rookie year is just like finding efficiency within drum corps. I mean, for me, that took the whole summer to figure that out. Just efficiency.
Yeah. And so 30 minutes of like, I could just be on my phone or I could just chill. And usually I was on my phone because I don't actually establish like amazing habits. Yeah, I could journal, I could meditate, I could do whatever, but I was on my phone. Whatever. I was 16 at the time. So
we're kids. Come on.
Yeah. So then I'd show up to block would happen. Lunch is kind of the same. Lunch is whatever. Like I just try to eat lunch as fast as possible and get ready for the next block. Dinner's kind of the same thing. And then snack happens, and it's the same thing. Like there's not too much of a routine. Really the routine is when do you wake up? What do you do when you wake up? And what do you do when you go to sleep? Right. So snack would happen. I'd shower when my designated time was. Yeah. I would eat snack designated time. I try not to mess around with those schedules because you don't want to keep the snack line open. but also you don't want to shower too late or too early. You kind of just want to be there when you can.
Right, exactly.
But then, the actual sleeping regiment that I had was I laid out the clothes that I was going to wear the next day.
Yeah.
I put my dirty clothes in my laundry bag.
Wow.
And then I have a separate set of clothes that I sleep in. Like I always sleep in them. And
you're
so,
like real life preparing for drum corps. That's it. Like I've never heard anyone prepare this much for drum corps in my life. This is crazy.
Yeah. So like, and maybe it's not an amazing strategy, but I would wear the same clothes to sleep every single night, simply because it's like I put them on right after I shower, and I take them off right as I wake up. So I'm like, they're not getting that dirty. I mean, they're getting like a little bit of like the sleep gunk that's there,
right?
But for the most part, they're relatively clean. And if you can take relatively clean in drum corps, it's fine. It's relative. So, and basically I only sleep in like a pair of shorts anyways, and really nothing else. Like it's just a pair of shorts. So I don't care too much. And so if you can do that, you're really just setting up yourself, even if you have like 15 to 20 minutes in the first part of the day, because you get that routine set up, that's 15 to 20 minutes to just collect yourself and be like,
or like if you need to like work on a chunk, or you need to work on something before you get out there, like you have that time to work on that.
Yeah. I would do that with other corps. When I was at Blue Devils, I didn't practice outside of block. But yeah, really it is just for me. I'm like, just having that time to just
collect
and chill.
Yeah.
It's always nice. And same thing with at night. Like go to sleep when it's lights out.
I was terrible about that. When I kept going through my years, bro, I never went to sleep. Like year 2, 3, 4, like I never went to sleep. Like I was up. I was that guy who was up after lights out, like talking to everybody. Like I was not. I was never going to sleep.
Yeah. For me, I'm like I know as soon as tour starts that 8 hours is a luxury.
You'll never get it.
Exactly. So I'm going to, and especially during spring training at Blue Devils, we got 9 hours.
Which is just
because they knew. They knew. Yeah. Well, they also knew. They knew people were going to be on their phones. They knew people were going to do that. So sorry about that. That's really loud. But they gave us 9 hours, and I was like, awesome. I got basically 8.5 hours of sleep, because that means I can wake up 30 minutes early. And I can just be done. And for Blue Devils especially, we had a dining hall to us, and that dining hall opened up 30 minutes before.
So you were already ready to, like, everyone woke up, and you were like, I'm done.
Yes, yeah. In a lot of cases, I was almost always there because it was already open, and I was up 30 minutes before.
So you're the first one.
Yeah, usually that's how it ended up being. And that was just really nice. So yeah, especially during spring training, it's a big reason why I like it very much, is because I'm very efficient with my time when I have a schedule like that. So,
and then because once tour happens, I mean, that all gets thrown out the window. You're completely running on adapting to wherever we are, whatever time it is. Like, just adapting on the fly from there.
Yeah, and it's good. Like I'm good at adapting in real life to a lot of different situations. For whatever reason in tour, it's really hard, because it's like you're waking up somewhere new almost every single day. Whereas like if my schedule's kind of like lopsided and I don't really know what I'm going to do every single day, it does get pretty hard. In real life, it gets pretty hard.
Yes.
And then you match that with, I have very little sleep. I'm in a very new place that I've probably never been to before, or I have
been in the ground running for the whole day.
Yeah, I've got no clue. I don't know where the food truck is. I don't know where this is. So it's kind of that variability that's like, it's not very good.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm adaptable, but not in that situation. I like
it can still be hard, absolutely
adaptable and things like that. But yeah, tour is just really hard for me. Like
I feel that. No, I'm like, honestly, my big thing, like, I don't know if I had much of a routine through spring training. I mean, dude, my brother packed. He always holds that over my head that he packed my bag my rookie year. He was a 5-year vet. He was like, never forget, I packed your bag your rookie year, so never forget it. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Packed it every year after that, but he packed my bag on the record. But like what I would do, what I always needed, and I don't know if it was just because I was like 15 and tired as all hell, but like I needed a nap. Like after the morning block, and especially before dinner block, like I needed a nap, bro. Like I needed to put the headphones on, Drake, Views came out in 2016, so that was in my ear that summer. I don't know how the hell I'm falling asleep to Drake, but I did. Also, it's a thing of like drum corps. There's not many moments where you can get like a peace and quiet if you're that type of person who, needs that to kind of recharge up. There's not going to be many moments of that. So if you can ever find, like for me, like I really needed like 15, 20 minutes, especially during spring training when it gets monotonous every single day.
Yeah.
I'm like, week 3, I'm going to need 15 minutes after I eat dinner to just go by the field, take a nap or something, and just like kick it, lay down, get some silence. Because it's just like, that's so hard to come by, especially when you get on tour. You're never going to have that. Like, you're just off to the races. You're around everybody all the time. So, I think it's super, like, that's huge, though. Like, like implementing a routine, I never even thought about it like that. Like, doing something, and it's not even that crazy. It's just like, if you can figure in, just put the alarm, especially during spring training when when you're going to wake up 15 minutes before to get yourself up and ready to go, because I think that's like the hardest thing in spring training, especially if you're new.
Yeah.
It's just getting up.
Yeah, and that 15 minutes of silence, like you said, it's like I got that first thing in the morning. And it was nice because also it's like, especially at Blue Devils, and I think a little bit at Vanguard too.
Yeah.
Vanguard was hard because they had like different things in the morning. Like it wasn't the same schedule. Whereas BD, it was pretty much, we're going to do visual first thing in the morning. Like that's usually what it is. Sometimes we would change with brass. Like it was basically for every 2 vis blocks, we got 1 brass block. So sometimes we would have brass in the mornings, but usually it's like I could show up to the stadium like 15 to 20 minutes before block and just kind of sit there and just relax.
Yeah.
Just get that
Take
15
it in.
minutes to myself. Yeah. So, but back to your question, what advice could I give to rookies? It would be establish a routine, because when you get on tour is all about adaptability anyways. So there's not much like strict advice I could give you except for sleep. Whenever you're on the floor, sleep. Because you don't know how much you're actually going to be sleeping. Like you don't know if it's going to be 5 hours or 6 hours or 2 hours or 8 hours or whatever. So sleep, that's the only thing I can really give on tour is sleep, and find a way to sleep on the bus as well. I'm terrible at sleeping on the bus. That's another reason I hate tour, is because I cannot sleep on a moving
I got good
vehicle.
at that. I will say I got really good at that.
There's every
I
once
can
in a while
fall asleep anywhere now. Drum corps has taught me I can fall asleep literally anywhere at any time.
Drum corps has taught me I cannot sleep on any moving vehicle. So no matter how much I try, I think the only times I've actually been able to fully sleep is whenever I have been able to fully lie down. The only thing for me, I'm 6'3". The only time I'm fully lying down is whenever I have an entire row to myself. Not just my 2 seats, but the other 2 seats on the other end. That's the only time I've ever been able to fall asleep, is when I can lay down like that.
Problems.
I know. It's actually terrible. And the only reason that ever happened is because 2 of them got to go home with their parents, and one of them like lived in the area and was able to drive. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. And not only that, they just so happened to be the 3 people I was next to. So I was like, thank goodness. So they all were gone. They all were gone, and that's the only reason I was able to. That was the one night where I actually got to sleep on the bus.
100%.
Other than that, like I'm in and out phasing of sleep and not sleep and whatever. So rookies, establish a routine in spring training, sleep as much as possible on tour, and try to be as adaptable as possible on tour. That's 100%. Like the biggest piece of advice.
Absolutely. So something I was curious about, just kind of leaving off with Genesis. Obviously, you went back there in 2021, but moving on to SCV, something before we leave that, I want to know something from you, doing basically like 1.5, 2 years, however you want to look at it, however anyone looks at it. Like, how did marching Genesis in general help set you up for SCV and BD and those bigger cores down the line? How did these building blocks kind of set you up?
Yeah, so I think Genesis was really good at giving me the experience that I needed. One thing that they were really good at, especially in those 2 years, was education. Yeah. They really focused on teaching kids how to be really good at marching. Again, we weren't the best. We weren't amazing at it, right? But they taught us how to be really good.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of fundamentals. We did a lot of, especially in brass, we did a lot of listening. We did a lot of tuning in 21. We did a lot of tuning. We did a lot of balloon work. We did a lot of pedagogical, we talked about it. Like, we actually acknowledged that.
Like, why do we do this?
Exactly. Why do we do this? What are we going to do? Things like that. So I think they're really good at fostering talent and helping people at least grow as performers. I think they've kind of accepted the fact that it's not going to be a finalist corps. It's not going to be a world champion.
Yeah.
It's not, but they're going to have their niche and they're going to do it really well. And they've really focused on the education side, which I love because now basically their whole first month and a half is focused on spring training and clinics. They do a lot of clinics throughout Texas.
Ooh,
they don't even
I
really
didn't know
start
that.
touring. Yeah, they do like shows in Texas, but not competitive shows. They used to go all the way to California. Like in 2019, we went all the way to California and basically did like the Blue Devils tour. That's what we did.
Jeez.
We basically just toured with the Blue Devils, which is pretty funny.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
after 21, it's basically was, hey, we're going to stay in Texas and we might go up to the Colorado show. In most cases, they did. Colorado's usually their first like drum
Makes
corps
sense
show.
for them being like a almost 15 years in. I mean, you're still a small organization. Like
Yeah.
talking
Especially
about
with
financials of a
COVID.
tour.
Especially
Financials of a
with COVID.
tour in the 2021 and 2022, where I heard like all my friends who were going, they're like, bro, gas prices are crazy everywhere. Like trying to do another California tour after COVID, coming from Texas as a younger organization, cannot be easy.
It's tough. So yeah, I think they're really good at educating and getting people to the level that they need to be. I think from that 2019 season, I'm the only one that's marched Blue Devils and gotten to a level like that. But we've had plenty of people from 19 and 21 go on to march Crown and Blue Coats and Boston Crusaders and stuff like that. So they've gotten quite a bit of people there. And so it's really good. They're just really good at teaching people and giving them the experience because like it's very drum corps over there. It really is. Like you do get the experience that you need to.
And you're given the skills to go to kind of like it's I don't know how you feel about it, but like the whole like stepping stone corps kind of deal. I mean, whenever I had marched, like those corps where we were all semifinalists, we're trying so hard to be a finalist corps and try to make it there. That when people were like, "Yeah, I'm going to use this place to like hone my craft," and then I want to go do that because that's insane. I love it. So like. Back then, semifinalist corps got really upset about being like the stepping stone corps. Was that ever a thing at Genesis where it was like, no, if you ever leave this, you're not trying to build this organization. It's a betrayal.
I think it really depends. I think they as an organization know it's like, hey, we're really gonna fight for this person because and it's not an insult to the person, but it's like this person probably is not going to go to those corps. Like they're very much like if you're gonna leave this corps, please go to a top 4 corps or don't leave. Like because there's no reason to. And it's a very valid argument. It's like if you're gonna leave the corps, go try to win the thing. Otherwise, it's like, what are you gonna do if you go? Like especially because Crossman's also Texas. It's like, what are you gonna do if you go to Crossman?
Like go make a big leap.
Exactly. It's like you're gonna and that's not a dig to Crossman, but it's like you're going from 20th and not making finals to now Crossman's like also not making
on the bubble and like might not make it.
Yeah. So that's been a decent argument to like actually keep some vets. But they also usually are good at spotting like, okay, who is the potential to actually stay here and investing in those people? Like they asked me to come back in 22 and I didn't. One, because Vanguard was the thing that I really wanted to do, but also because they had fired the brass caption head again. So I was like, I can't because the brass caption head's gone. But they offered the section leader spot to me for trumpet, and they said I could march for free. Like they invest. The leadership marches for free over there because they want you to be there, and they want you to invest in the corps just like they are with you. Like it's practically a paid position. Because they can't really pay you, but if they give it to you for free, like, so that's always just been a cool thing. They're really good at investing in the people that do want to stay there. But then, for me, it's like they didn't try, at least in 19, they didn't try to get me back. But in 22, Chris himself, the corps director, called me and he's like, hey, everyone's like, you're just going back to Vanguard, but I just wanted to see for myself. And so, he offered me that and I liked it. And I just had my own reasons as to why I wasn't going back. And it was just because the brass caption head, but I seriously considered it. I'm like, that's a free summer and I can build up an organization, or at least try to, So yeah, but yeah, let's talk about Vanguard.
Absolutely, 100%. So for
Awesome.
you, how did you get introduced to like SCV? How did that come into the picture for you, marching at SCV in 2022?
I mean, really, it started in 2020 because that's when I first got the contract. So
Right.
I just finished with Genesis, and I thought about going back, but there was also part of me that's like, I need more. I just need more
Mhm.
out of the activity. Like, because being a rookie in Genesis, this is going to sound so egotistical, but I thought I was one of the better people there in terms of like the whole package. I knew my playing was
Absolutely.
still lackluster, but I was like, in terms of the whole package, like I'm pretty good here.
Yeah.
And I mean that ended up being true. Like I ended up going really far in the activity, but I was like, I just need more out of the activity. I need the competitive success that comes with it. So I tried out for Blue Devils, as one does.
Absolutely.
Wasn't quite at that level just yet. But Chip Kratz, who's now my brass caption head, by the way, he was like, "Have you thought about Vanguard?" And up until that point, I didn't. But he mentioned it, and I was like, maybe I should.
Good.
And so I watched some Vanguard shows. There were shows that I already knew, whatever. I looked at like what was going on over there. I eventually was like, let's download the packet. Let's
Yeah.
do that.
Absolutely.
Because it was either Blue Devils or Blue Stars at first. And I had auditioned for Blue Stars. I got a call back there. I ended up not going to the Vanguard camp. I got the packet and I downloaded the packet and I worked on the packet. But I ended up not going because I was like, well, if I get a call back at Vanguard, it's at the same time as Blue Stars, and I have a better chance of getting the Blue Stars. So I didn't. Well, then Blue Stars callbacks come around, and turns out they're kind of very similar to Blue Knights that year. They had like maybe 5 or 6 spots open.
Yeah.
With like 3 alternate spots, so maybe about 9 places total that were actually open.
Right.
And so, I was like 30th out of like 26. So
Yeah.
I was close, but I wasn't quite there, and they already had so many spots already taken up. So I was like,
Right.
well,
What are you gonna do?
unfortunate, but whatever. Nothing you can do. Yeah. So then I'm like, dang, this really stinks. I don't have a contract anywhere. I might have to go back to Genesis. Well, then I get an email eventually from Vanguard that was like, hey, we just did our January camp, but we still got spots open. And we saw that you had thoughts about auditioning, but you just never did. Can you send us some videos? And so I did.
That's huge.
Yeah, I grinded for like a week, and I was like, I can get you these by I think like Friday or Saturday.
Right.
And so I did for a whole week. I just grinded as much as I could. Like, here's the brass. I sent them. It's funny. All the brass audition materials that I prepared for Blue Devils and Blue Stars, I just sent them that. I just sent all of that. And then like the lip flexibility and whatever. And then for visual, I showed them a box drill at different tempos. And then I think I did a little bit of playing on the move. And then that was it. And so I did that, and they were like, well, you have what it takes. Come to our February camp.
Absolutely.
And so I did. And again, going into February, there was another audition that they wanted me to do. I was now a callback. So I just auditioned for them, and now I had to prepare even more for the audition. So I prepared all their music, and I prepared their like dance and everything, like so much stuff I prepared. Yeah. Well, then we get to the callback camp, and we get taken out on Friday night with like a group of maybe 12 people that are all still kind of callbacks. So then I do that audition, and those are the 2 dances. They had 2 dances back then. They now only have like 1 dance, but they had 2 back then with 2 different styles. Absolutely. And so did those 2 dances, and then they were like, okay, you guys are good. That was it. And so I was actually scared. I was like, I didn't try out brass. I only did 2 dances. And I was worried. I was like,
wait, did you not do like a music audition?
Nope. I kept telling Noah, who was the section leader at the time, I was like, Noah,
I haven't done my audition.
Yeah, I haven't done any of my audition. I just did 2 dances, whatever. And so I was so nervous all of camp. Like, you went through all
Did I just get cut?
brass stuff. Yeah. Well, I was just like, it wasn't even that. I was like, I don't want to get cut. I don't think it's fair if you guys cut me. You guys made me prepare all this stuff, and I haven't been able to do it. And Noah, being the angel that he was like, you don't have to worry. he was like, keep this between me and you, but you don't got to worry about it. You're going to be okay.
When did you find that out? Like, when did you hear about that?
This was Saturday night, because I was like, hey, it's Saturday night. Like,
it's about that time.
Go. Yeah, I know. I'm like, I haven't auditioned at all today. I haven't played anything. I haven't done my drill. I worked on that drill a lot.
Oh,
Like they had
geez.
drill excerpts that were hard
Yeah.
too.
Right.
And I was like, I worked on that a lot and I haven't been able to do it at all. Like
I'm ready.
I have been reviewing it all day in my head of like what I'm going to
Yeah.
do. And yeah, he just told me at Saturday night, he's like, hey, you don't got to worry about it. You don't got to worry. Like, and
Wow.
that's all he said. He's like, I can't tell you anything, but just like, don't worry about it. Like, don't let it eat you up. And then, so yeah, we get to Sunday and same thing kind of happens where I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know what's happening. I don't know what don't worry about it means. I don't know what that
Right. Like, am I
means.
still going to do the audition or what?
Exactly. Exactly. So then we get to Sunday and again, nothing happens. And so,
Wow.
at the end, then I go up to Ivan. I'm like, hey, Ivan, thank you for this experience. Like, I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you know when I will get results at all? And he was like, you should get results Wednesday. And I was like, cool. Thank you so much, Ivan.
Sick.
Then, yeah, Wednesday, my contract was in the mail. And I was like, look at that. So,
Solid.
yeah. So it was really cool. I got to meet the Van Dorns that camp. I got to meet Mark Nichols
Yeah.
that camp. I got to meet so many just amazing people. That whole core was just such good vibes. Like they were
Yes.
all so nice and
Yeah.
encouraging, but also really, really good and intimidating. Like it was
Yes.
very
Especially the
much,
Van Dorn family in
yes,
general. I mean,
it
like
was
just hearing
very
that
much,
name and you
yeah,
know anything about drum corps, you're going to be like,
dude,
oh my God,
yeah.
you're the
But
guy.
you also just look at it's like it's very much what Vanguard I guess used to be, and kind of what I kind of fell in love with Vanguard is like
Yeah.
we can all chill and we're all goofy because we're all like 21 and under, but at the same time
Right.
we're scary. Like we are scary, and
Like,
like we will curb stomp you if we need to.
there's
You know what
like
I'm
a
saying?
rich
It's like
tradition of like
yes,
excellence being in this
it's
organization.
yes, yeah, yeah. It's still horns.
100%.
It's still like crazy horn snaps after every rep. It's still you're pistoling out, and that mouthpiece is going
Yeah.
into your like belly button and stuff like you're forcing it. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's Cadets of the West or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
Low
was
key.
such an awesome camp. It was
Yeah.
such an awesome camp. So we did that, and then of course canceled. 21 gets canceled. I do that video, and then we go
Right.
into 22. And so
Absolutely. Yeah.
22 is very different vibe. At Vanguard, you have to re-audition. And so I did that.
Oh,
I wasn't too worried about it. At that point,
right.
like I had done another summer at Genesis, as well
Yeah.
as I'd done a lot of practicing in the off season. Like I showed up, got contracted first camp again, and then I didn't have to worry about it. Yeah, it was a very different vibe. That's for sure.
How so? Like, how would you say? Like, was it was it the type of people that are coming in? Was it the staff that had changed? Was it just like what to you kind of made 2020? Because this for me, like, this is like I've talked about this before on the podcast, but 2022 when I came back and just went to that Blue Knights camp, like for me, I was like,
Mm,
something about this all feels off and a little
yeah.
different, and I can't pinpoint. So for you, like, were you able to be like something about this right here, like just it's off for me?
You could tell. I mean, one, it was factual, but also you could just tell most of
Feel
these
it,
people were new to the activity.
right?
They'd never done it before. Like I was like, oh, it's gonna be a bunch of people that started in 21, and 21 was like the Mickey Mouse season, you know.
Right.
But no, it wasn't even that. There was just as little people that marched in 2019 that had marched 2021. Like
So is there just
not
like
a
a
lot of
lot of new drum corps
a
people here?
lot of new people in 22, especially
Oh
at
my goodness.
Vanguard. Just completely new, never done it before. Didn't do 21, didn't do any of that stuff. They were just
Wow.
completely new to the activity. The people that were brand new to the activity in 2020, they were technically
Yeah.
vets, but they didn't march anywhere in 21 either. So
Right.
they it was also their first summer ever, even though they had been contracted back in 2020.
Hmm.
Um, there was a few where I think it was like 4 or 5, at least in the trumpets, that were
Right.
vets of the Corps but had never marched anywhere ever.
Yeah.
So it was definitely tough. Where it's like all the 2020 vets are in a very weird spot, but also pretty much everybody is completely new to the activity. I was one of the few people that had even marched
Drum
previous.
corps.
Yeah,
Period. Just
I
in
was one of
general.
the few. I think there was maybe 20 of us that had marched
Wow.
marched
And see,
drum
like that's
corps.
fine at a Genesis. I feel like, and it's just no disrespect, but like a younger core,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
that's gonna happen there. You're gonna get a lot of new people that are trying to just get into the activity to learn. But at an
Yeah,
SCV who's very established, a normal top five, like with a standard of excellence,
yeah.
that has to be because I mean, are you as SCV trying to be like, well, we as an organization have had this standard for many years of like, we place top 5. We are who we are. When we step on the field, people expect something from us. So we need to, I don't care if we haven't done this or not, like we need to get you up to speed because we need to put that product on the field. Or is it like, okay, we need to do the building blocks again, kind of like Genesis?
It was 2 different mindsets throughout the summer. I'm going to be honest. It really was, we're Vanguard. Simple as that. Like, we're Vanguard. It's gonna happen. We're gonna be top 5, top 3, hopefully again.
Right.
We're gonna do our thing. We're amazing. We're the Vanguard. Blah blah blah. Let's just not forget about it. Because honestly, at that point, the staff was very similar to something like Blue Devils. We had Matt Hartwell for more than 10 years at that. Well, for 10 years at that point, we had Mark Nichols, and the only. I mean, Katie Van Doren was new. Some of the techs were new, but that's every year. Techs are always
but also Van Doren's in general.
Exactly. And Van Doren's, it was like, okay, we went from Chip Cott's system to Van Doren's. There's not like those are. Okay. It's basically the same. It's like
change a lot.
It's different pedagogy, but same level of excellence and standard.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
It was just different pedagogy. We're like, we didn't do balloons as much. We did other stuff instead. So it was that. They were like, well, we're going to get as talented of people as we possibly can. And we were a very talented core. And we had basically the same staff. Again, we were in the same position as like Blue Devils normally, where we got the same staff. So going into the season, it was, we're Vanguard. We have a standard. You might not be a vet, or you are a vet, but you're kind of not. Or you're new to the activity. You're kind of not. The staff
we have a standard.
Yeah, the staff is going to lasso us and bring us.
You're coming with us.
Yeah.
That's what this season's going to be.
And then in 23, we were going to be set up for success. And in 24, we had a ton of 24 age outs. Like, I think if everything went well, we can fight for a ring in 24 because so many age outs. At that point, everyone's like a 3-year vet. So many just good things going into 2024. And then a week before spring training, our visual staff leaves, like all of them. So that's the biggest thing where now we are in rebuilding. We still have the standard of, hey, we're going to be really good in this offseason, and everyone kind of got to that.
But on the fly, we're going to have to it's even though it's like it's your Vish staff, very crucial part to the organization, and when that leaves and that changes, it's like the whole system of how you kind of planned everything out to be, because now you have to get on the same page with the new staff. So it's just like, a whole new plan with all of that.
Yeah, it definitely went from we have a standard to what is the standard again? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that were there's only a few that marched Vanguard before 2020. So we had I think 5 or 6 in the horn line that had marched pre-2020.
Wow.
So 2019, 2018, we had 2 2018 vets in the horn line.
Oh, jeez.
So
I bet they must have been pissed.
No. Those were the best 2 people in the horn. Yeah,
oh my God.
Both of them are amazing people.
Hell yeah. That's good.
Actually, one of them was a horn sergeant. The second one was probably one of the most just such an amazing guy. They're That's 2 awesome. Amazing people. So yeah, it was really good. Like those people, awesome. I wouldn't have anybody else that had led the section than those 2, or led the horn line than those 2, because they just knew they knew it right. I think if there were some people from 2018 that were still there at that point, maybe it could have been bad, but it wasn't. It wasn't. They were amazing.
They kept it together.
Yeah, they kept it together as best as they could. As best as they could. Yeah. You know how at Genesis I said we only focus on starts and releases?
And is that kind of what happened summer?
It was the opposite at Vanguard. Our tuning and our tone quality was insane, but we couldn't start together and we couldn't stop together. Like unironically, we couldn't. Like in the finals lot, we were missing releases.
Oh boy,
that's how bad it was.
That makes your heart drop. If you're deep into the season and something happens, it's like, oh, freak accident. Maybe the first time freak accident, but it's like my heart drops because it's like
exactly. Yeah, it's literally the opposite of Genesis, where it's like we had a good system that we could fall back on, that we could develop these new players. But now it's like we have all these developed players that are really good. Amazing tone quality, amazing tuning, something that Genesis didn't have. And again, we couldn't start and stop together. A lot of us couldn't do drum corps. Just couldn't do drum corps. Like I think I mentioned before the podcast, there was a huge culture of like just complaining about stuff that was relatively normal to the activity. Like, of course, behind the scenes now, looking back at it, there's a lot of things that were going on that shouldn't have been going on.
Right,
there
but
was
there's
just
a lot of, like, with the staff changing and everything, and it's kind of just like, okay, we kind of have to go into this thing now, whether we like it or not. It's
yeah,
kind of just like
yeah,
they fostered the culture so much at that point for all the new
hmm
people that were coming in to kind of like almost, it sounds like, to like ease them into it, and with
hmm
that, they went too much of the extreme where, like, we talked about it before, like, for the success, there kind of needs to be a little bit of a push, a sense of
yeah,
urgency that needs to be
yeah,
put into the membership so that you can get, like when stuff like that is happening in the lots of like attacks and releases, like there needs to be some urgency and some push that gets put into like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
we are Vanguard. Like this is something we need to be able to do this. And like if
hmm
we have to do something that's gonna be a little tough so that you get to do this, like that's what we're gonna
yeah.
have to do,
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
And
part of
I,
it.
I honestly think like we could have been a really good core. I think we could have been up there with like second place type core
Right.
in terms of like skill and talent if we had that visual staff. Because
Mhm.
a big reason is like we just didn't know what to do because the visual staff for a long time and the admin staff didn't really know what to do. And that's not a knock to them. It's like they got thrown into those positions like last minute.
So soon to
So it's
like the
like
actual thing
yeah,
happening. They didn't
they're
have any
trying to
time to like plan.
yeah, they're trying to figure out and it's like most of the Viz staff were students of the previous like A core Viz staff. So it's like
Right.
they're trying their best to recall like how would the A core staff teach this and
How do they do
it's
this?
yeah, it's so hard like we were just not set up for success that summer.
Right.
We were a good core talent wise, but the system that Vanguard had put in place went away a week before spring training, which is a big reason why we weren't as successful. Where it's like those attacks and releases, you might say that's on brass staff, but I
Right.
honestly think a lot of that has to do with Viz staff, where it's like we could have better brass staff time because everything else is working. But instead, it's like everything's going terribly, so the brass staff time is not put together as well. A lot of
Because we need to
the
focus on
culture,
just getting this
everything.
visual program
Yeah,
together.
yeah. It's also like, can we just how do we foster these performers? It's like all of it was gone. Like our biggest rock was Mark Nichols, who was our brass caption head. Because Katie ended up having to leave as well because she was having a child. So it's like our biggest rock was Mark Nichols. He
Yeah.
was the semblance of Vanguard. He was Vanguard. He's the only person we really could look to of like, what are we supposed
You
to do?
know what
What
this
are
is
we
supposed
supposed
to
to do?
be.
Exactly, exactly. I also think if at any point, and this is not a critique to anybody specific that was in power or that was in a leadership position or anything, it's like I think we needed one person to really kind of just put up a backbone a little bit. Where it's like Matt Hartwell was very much that, and then he left. And I think if
Yeah.
somebody was able to just kind of get into that role, I think, either the horn sergeant or the corps director, or maybe even Mark could have done that, or somebody somewhere, they're never going to be Matt Hartwell, and they don't have to be, right? But if they could
No.
emulate in some way of where we were very much a complain or let's talk about our feelings or let's do this, let's do that. If we could have one person that's just like, hey,
This is what drum corps is. It's going to be
this,
really
yeah,
hard. Like if you like
exactly.
when you signed up for this thing, it wasn't going to be the easiest. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to put a 12-minute production on the field at a
hmm
very high level with
hmm
everyone, all 154 whatever, executing at a very high level. That's hard. That's
Yeah.
super hard because it takes commitment from every single person every single time. That's just
Yeah. Yeah.
something I bet you experienced when you got to BD. It's just like because
Exactly.
everyone's just like, oh, they win every single year. But if you just watch the group and you watch like I mean, there's so much, and we'll get into that, but just
hmm
like the overall confidence from the membership gets instilled. It seems like from the staff, just being like, yes, you're here. You've been put in this position because we believe in you to execute at a high level, and like they just decide to do it the first time, every single time, and like when they don't, it's like we're gonna need you to do it because this is
Yeah.
who you are and this is who we know you can be.
hmm
So just go out there and do it. You
Yeah.
know, I was curious from you guys as a membership in 2022, what was the membership's reaction when SCV doesn't decide to field a core in 2023?
Is December 12th.
December 12th is when they end. So like, prime, everyone's going to audition somewhere. So it's like, what was
Yeah. It
the
was the
reaction of
week.
the membership?
Yeah. It was the Tuesday of callbacks. So
Jeez.
yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. The mass reaction was kind of heartbreak. We had just gone through such a difficult summer,
Yeah.
but surprisingly, almost everyone was coming back. everyone that could come back was coming back. For me, a little bit, I was like, maybe it's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome type stuff. I don't know, but
But you're like,
everyone was coming back. Yeah,
cool.
everyone was committed. At that point, our core director had changed to somebody else. We had a viz staff. We had an actual caption head that had done it before come in.
Right.
And so there were still some growing pains. Like I was still concerned because at that point we had a new caption head and we were going to change techniques. We were going to do straight leg, and they're doing straight leg this year, by the way,
Crazy.
at Vanguard. But yeah, we were switching to straight leg, and a lot of people had problems with that. And
Right.
I was like, "Come on, guys, it's not even called that camp, and we're already having trouble. Like, we're already in a much better spot than we were last year with all this vet retention, everything.
Let's trust now. Let's trust the process.
And then again, it didn't matter because we folded.
Outside factors that you can't control yourself, again,
exactly,
kind of coming in the way there.
And so,
absolutely,
I loved the discussion going into it. Again, the only topic of concern was, of course, we're changing techniques. Boo-hoo. But a lot of people were making a big fuss about that. But for the rest of us, and like for most of the core, if you could see past that, it's like we're really working to make this a really good summer, and it was. And then again,
if we can have the vets come back, we could add something really special, regardless.
Yeah. And then we folded, and that was super unfortunate. Everyone just kind of found other places to go. Yeah, we had to move on, and like I had thought whenever they did fold, I even said it to somebody. I was like, I'm coming back for 24. I said that to some people at Vanguard. But that was like a day after they had folded, so it was really tough to really say, because at that point, whenever I truly let it settle in, I was like, a lot of trust was broken that day.
That happened for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of things were broken that day. A lot of my mindset on it, I'm like, I don't know. Like, do I want to do a summer like 22 again after I had experienced something like the Blue Devils, where I'm like, maybe my time back at Vanguard is on staff after this, right? I think my time as a performer for Vanguard's over, but on staff I could probably do something. So that's kind of my plan, is maybe in the next couple of years try to join their staff.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. But yeah, like Vanguard's always going to hold a special place in my heart. I love that 100%. Organization, just like Genesis. Like I love every organization I've been a part of. I'm glad that I can fall behind those organizations and just still love them for everything, because they really helped me develop as a person.
They gave you that experience to go, especially at SCV. Like, and no matter, Genesis giving you your building blocks, letting you hone in on your skills to get to SCV giving you an opportunity to perform at that high level, be able to compete with a top 5, compete in that window, understand what that's like to compete at that level, to execute at that level. And then BD, of course, to be with the best of the best, obviously. So from there, like, is BD just like when SCV folds up shop, you're just like, okay, well, the obvious answer, this is the only way. Like, was that just a no-brainer where it was just like, hey, it's BD. Like, I already kind of auditioned here. Like, if SCV's closing up shop, it's only these guys.
Yeah, it kind of was. My first thought, honestly, was Boston. So I had a friend, his name's Jacob Cosper. I love this guy. I knew he was at Boston because he marched Boston in 22. And I had actually told him the day before SCV folded, I was like, hey, like something crazy's happening. I don't know what it is, but they called us into a meeting tomorrow, and I'm just kind of worried. Do you guys have any spots available at Boston? And he was like, we should, like, I don't know, you probably have to email Gino. And he was like, just let me know.
Right.
And I was like, sounds good. Well, then the next day, basically 10:30 at night, I text him and I'm like, hey, do you guys have any spots? Because Vanguard had folded at that point. And he was like, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, that really sucks. And he gave me Gino's email. So I emailed Gino first, honestly. That was the first one. Because at this point, I was like, I'm not sure really where I do want to go. I know I need to go up, if anything. There's no way I'm going to, like...
You don't want to go side to side or down.
Exactly. I'm going to something like Boston, or, my next thought was, I can just go to BD. I was like, at this point, I know I'm good enough. Right. I had already auditioned there before. I remember Chip. In 2019, what I had told myself so long is, what does a Blue Devil look like? And I would try to emulate that as much as possible when I was in 2019. And also it helped in 2019 because we, like I said, we basically toured with the Blue Devils. So for me, I was like, I just looked at them every single time in such awe. Where I was like, they just move so well, and I want to be like that. And so I'm like, how do they move? How do they look? And so yeah, when I truly like thought about it, I was like, my younger self would really want this and would really like this. So Boston gets back to me and they're like, yeah, all we have is alternate spots at this point. We're sorry, because they were on their stuff. Like before December, they had their whole horn line,
which is crazy.
Yeah, which is actually crazy. But some people were actually extremely fast with it, because the same weekend that we had our callback camp in December, Bluecoats had theirs. And so some people immediately sent emails to Bluecoats, and they were there that weekend. And then a lot of them got contracted. A lot of Vanguard people went to Bluecoats, but most of us went to Blue Devils. Like Blue Devils had the biggest cluster of Vanguard people. Yeah, I think we had like 16 total. Like it was lot. There was a lot of us. Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, I need to go to BD. So yeah, I get in contact with the caption heads of Vanguard. Were super nice. They were like, hey, if you need us to vouch for you guys, like call us and we will call these people, because they're in Vanguard. They know everybody, right? And especially with Chip. Like Chip was at Vanguard in 19
knows everybody.
And 18 and 17. So they contact Chip. I eventually am able to get onto a call with Chip and talk about it and talk about auditioning. And he remembered me, which is awesome.
Wow.
He remembered me because he remembered mentioning Vanguard to me. And he also remembered my high school director, because he was gonna Chip, when I was in high school, actually was going to play a gig with us in our jazz band.
Yeah.
And then he got called to a Broadway show because he's Chip Krotz. And so we got Joey Tartell instead, which is also a really, really good guy too.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, Indiana University type guy. He really good. But anyways, that was just funny. And so he knew our band director, and he remembered me, and that was awesome. I really liked that about Chip. Chip's amazing. He's such a class act, such a great guy. I eventually got invited to January camp. It was free to attend. It was free everything. It's just like, hey, just show up. That's awesome. And prepare this audition stuff. So I think a day or a week before, I called Chip and I'm like, hey, like this is the first time, I talked about audition nerves and whatever. Again, anytime I auditioned for BD, I did kind of feel it, right? So this is the first time where, again, the anticipation was kind of killing me, because at this point I had not done any drum corps for a month. And also at this point, I had not auditioned for a drum corps since 2020.
Yeah, right. So it's just like, was the last time I get back in the audition room again, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
and so I called them again, and I was like, hey, I'm just like, this normally doesn't happen, but I'm really nervous. And so I was like, can you just go over what the camp's going to look like and what I can expect? And so he did. He sat down. Well, I don't know. We were on a phone call, but he was there, and for like 30 minutes, we went over like what camp's going to start like, then what we're going to do the next day, and then what the audition's going to look like. And then Sunday, he's like, you're going to get your results, and that'll be fun. In that call, he was like, plenty of these people have vouched for you. You seem like you could be a really good addition to the team. He kind of gave me the thing that Noah gave me in Vanguard. He was like, you don't gotta worry. You don't have to worry. You're good. Yeah. He was like, just show up and do you, and I think you're gonna do fine. Mm-hmm. Which was really nice to hear from Chip. Right. So I was still nervous, right? But I told him when I got there, I was like, I was nervous, but now that I'm here, I just feel good. I just feel really good. Right,
because you're like, listen, once I get back in the environment, I start doing everything in it. It's like riding a bike. You just get right back on and keep doing it.
Yeah, literally the second I showed up, I was like, oh, I got this. Back. Yeah. And then it was that Friday night. I think it was Friday night where I was like, there's no way I don't get contracted. And maybe this is an ego thing. Maybe I'm cocky, maybe whatever, but it's like, I see all the other candidates. I remember my resume. I remember that, wait, I'm actually really good at drum corps. Like,
right. And I've been doing this for a while, so it's like, have some confidence in yourself.
I've been doing this for a while. And so at that point I was like, I'm going to make it, and I'm going to be in Blue Devils. Yes. And so at that point I wasn't worried anymore. And my audition, no nerves at all. They said they really liked my Artunian. And then the fundamentals were we're not going to talk about the fundamentals, but they really liked my Artunian, which is
Yeah,
awesome to hear. But yeah, again,
right.
my flexibility, like he was like that. He was like, "What's up with your flexibility?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea." It was a really because it was a really bad rep, and at that point,
Yeah,
I had dropped out of college because
right.
I had a professional gig that was offered to me.
Yeah,
I did all those things, and after like flexibility had not really been a huge thing, so it
right.
kind of was. I was kind of mostly self-taught at trumpet at that
It's
point
like, this is what it is.
still. And so, yeah, he asked me about that. But again, I guess the musicality was still there. So he really liked my Artunian. But yeah,
Right.
again, the fundamentals, I was like, "Oh, don't ask me about
We can work
scales.
on
Don't ask me
that.
about this."
There's
Yeah,
potential.
yeah. And it was funny because
Absolutely.
that audition camp alone actually kind of made me such a good player because he told me right then and there. He's like, "Here's how you should think about flexibility."
Work on this.
And
Yeah.
since then, my range is amazing. My flexibility is amazing. Like when you talk about education, like these are the best teachers in the world. Like
Right.
so yeah. At that camp alone, I was like, wait, I just learned something insane, and now I'm actually a really good player.
One little thing, it's like
Mhm.
completely changed my playing,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
like a sign of, amazing teachers.
yeah, yeah. And so we go through the camp. He gathers us around. I get pulled
Yeah.
out into the group that gets contracted. I get my contract. I feel really
Yeah.
good. It's history from there, really.
All going from there. I wanted
Yeah.
to ask something. You talked about this even before when you were with Genesis and you're looking at them and you're like, what does it take to be a Blue Devil? What does that look like to be a Blue Devil? The group themselves carry themselves and they move just like larger than life. They just like move in a different type of way that's just like it's different from everybody else. You see them
Mhm.
walk by or anything, the way they do something, it's so big, it's so just like it doesn't even feel like drum corps, it feels like Broadway. It feels like a whole different thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
For you, being a part of that for a year, what made BD so different from any organization you had been with?
Yeah, brass is brass is brass. Like
Right.
the brass staff even talks about this all the time. They're like, "Oh, balloons and this and whatever, whatever." When we get asked, this is the brass staff talking. They're like, when we
Yeah.
get asked about a certain technique, we always just say yes because they're like
Hmm.
brass is like math. Like there's so many different ways to get to the same solution. At the end
Right.
of the day, if it sounds good,
Sounds good to me.
go right ahead.
Nothing's the absolute
Yeah,
set in stone way.
yeah, and it helps. It helps also when most of the people that show up to Blue Devils are
Already
really
really
good
talented.
musicians. So it's almost like the whole caveat that you kind of got to put in there. It's like, yes, the brass staff's amazing, and they make us amazing. Like I did develop, my ears are insane when it comes to tuning now,
Right.
because again, we have such dense chord structures in the actual show and teaching
Yes.
that and whatever. So my ears are really good, and they definitely teach you how to get really good with your ears. In
Right.
terms of like technical stuff, you just got to be able to play that.
Yeah.
In terms of like breathing counts and stagger breathing, you usually just know
That's a
how to
you.
do that when you show
You
up.
thing.
Like a lot of it is, yeah, you have the base from either doing it before or whatever, but they don't really teach a lot of that. But they do teach those advanced concepts really, really well. And so, like, yeah, by the end of it, I think our tuning was insane. Like, we're not thinking about numbers. It's not like, oh, I'm the third, so I have to lower it to this, and oh, I'm the fifth, so I got to raise it up a little bit, and I got to
You're
do it.
just
It's like we talked about that a little bit at February camp this year, but if we're being honest, by the time we get to finals night, it's all by ear. We're not even
yeah.
thinking about it. There was one guy, it was like a TikTok that got really popular where
Mm.
he holds up a tuner to our trombone soloist, and the trombone
Yeah.
soloist is like 30 cents sharp or whatever. But the thing is though, is that like it doesn't
He's in
matter.
tune with everybody else, and if it
Exactly.
sounds good and like the
Yeah,
audience likes it and the judges
yeah,
are giving it the number and he
yeah.
sounds good with the rest of the production,
Exactly. And then you
maybe that's how
also
he's
like
supposed to do it.
you go down the line and you're like, "Oh, this person's like 3 cents flat when they're playing on their own." As soon as they get and they have other people
It
next to
works
them,
with
they
everybody
are
else.
perfectly in tune. And they're
Absolutely.
either all 3 cents flat or they're all 0. Like so your ears just get insane. So brass is
Right.
brass is brass is brass. Like Carolina
Brass.
Crown does really well. Blue Coats do
Yeah.
really well. Whatever.
Yep.
Brass, I'm gonna be honest. Brass is pretty easy. The visual side of things is a huge difference. Like you said, Broadway
Yeah.
show. This visual staff and the visual staff as a whole talk about visual in such a different way than any other core. Like as long as we have this staff and as long as we have this visual pedagogy, no core is ever going to look as good as us. And that's not a knock to these other corps. These other corps are going to look like really good marching bands. And we're going to look
but you have this staff that's going to create
we're going to look like the Blue Devils.
Instead of a like BOA or marching band type of show that's just advanced, you're performing a production, a show like art. You're trying to create art. That's so much of what when I go in and I watch a lot of BD like staff conversations. Like I watched the conversations with Scott Chandler from this past season, and just listening to them talk about the whole staff, listening to them talk about a show concept. There's so many show concepts. The typical like, oh, what we're going to do this year for the show is we're going to dive on this journey of a story and whatever. And it's just like BD always has this like, no, we're taking this one idea from an inspiration here, and we're trying to figure out how can we tell this story and create art from this idea, which is something I wanted to get into about, like, you have marched these shows before. Like Genesis 19 was the 10th anniversary show. 2021 was a We're Coming Back to Drum Corps show. Vanguard in 22 was a We're Coming Back to Drum Corps show. We have a lot to fight for. What is it like in 23 now as a performer? And we can always, go back and forth between whatever, but like, what is it like for you as a performer? I'm so curious to perform a show that's not about just coming back or celebrating whatever. This is such a deep concept about Matisse, like the artist, like the very talented artist, well known for all of his projects and everything. Diving into the concept of his life and the art that he had created. What is that like for you this time, not performing like a, hey, we're here because we're proving the point, we're coming back, whatever. It's like, no, we are diving into a very deep concept. What is that like for you as a performer?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice. I'm gonna be honest, like the whole Matisse thing, it was kind of a big thing. The show's based around it, and a lot of our drill was based around Matisse kind of things. But a huge thing was, I don't know, it was a pretty easy show to actually perform. I think our talent level was just insane. And put that and combine that with like the way our staff works and the way they design everything, and Jay and Scott Chandler and everything like that. It's so intuitive that the show all just kind of slowly got put together. Like we were able to, make the Icarus set. We were able to tie almost everything into the show theme pretty easily. And then, at the end, of course, we build the snail, which is one of his most famous pieces. And it's just like, everything just kind of flows together so effortlessly because, again, our design staff had been together for almost 20 years. Like they just kind of know it. And so, it was really nice to just show up day one, and it's like, we're immediately just into the process. Like, I wasn't there in 22, but it's like, guys, we did this last year. We do this all the time. We're going to do our thing. What's really nice, kind of going back to like the visual side of things with BD, it's like their process of learning the show is also very different, because it's basically like, you're learning drill on the spot. They're making it up as we go. There were visual blocks where we did like 3 different versions of the closer in one block. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, we would learn so many things all at once, where it's like, Jay's like, okay, well, this kind of makes sense here because for the art of Matisse and for how Matisse did it, like, we kind of want to build this kind of set. And then Jamie's like, okay, how can we do that? Okay, so Jamie and the rest of the Viz staff then, it's like, hey, these performers, you're going to make this and you're going to do this. And then over 16 counts, we're going to go here. Cool. Let's try it. 5, 6, 7, 8, boom. And we all try to do it as best as possible. Then we get a couple reps on it. And then Jay like maybe looks at it a little bit. Maybe he looks up top and he's like, I don't think that conveys the idea that we're looking for. So Jay, Scott, and Dave Glide and all these people, they have a vision that they want to portray. And in this case, it was about Matisse. So a lot of the performer side of things, we don't think about Matisse very much. We're just like, we're going to do what we're told to do. We're basically like the people on Pieware, where we're just being moved and told where to go. So, so Jay's like, how do we convey this idea? Scott's like, how do we convey this idea? And we figure out ways to do that. And again, we can just put on drill so fast and so. I
was going to say, it's very much different from your conventional marching band. Like, I get a coordinate sheet. I'm told I need to go here for this set and this set and these counts. Like, that's everybody else's experience. 99% of the marching band experience, drum corps experience, whatever, is going to be that card, filling out whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, was there ever stress about this, or was it just like, okay, cool, they're telling me to do this, I do this. This is what I do. They tell me where to go.
I thought about it. I'm going to be honest, though. My fundamental base of drill learning and the dot system at Vanguard really set me up well for something like
Wow.
this, because I had gotten so mathematical, so meticulous. I knew exactly where I was on the field at pretty much all time. I knew how to
Right.
read a field like a beast. Like, it was
Yeah.
insane. And now it's like, wait, I can just apply all those skills of being really good at it, and I can just march really well and kind of
Put
go
into
where I
this.
need to. Yeah. So
Right.
it was a really good transition for me. For some people, it's really jarring. Where
Yeah. A
like
lot of band kids like
yeah.
overthink it.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly feel like because I had done dot system at such a high level, it
Right.
made it easier. Like, if I went from Genesis, where it was like kind of dots, and then I go into Blue Devils, no way, I wouldn't have survived.
Tough. Yeah.
But because I was so good at dot system and
You
had
learn
such a good
field math.
fundamental base. Yeah, I just knew everything. Where they're
Right.
like, hey, can we go to 3 off, or can we go to threes, like threes and spacing? And I'm like, I know
Right.
what 3 steps looks like,
Cool.
because
Yeah.
I just the field math. So it was easy for me. But yeah, going back to the question, it's like Jay and Scott have the idea of like, how do we represent Matisse? How do we convey these ideas based around Matisse and the show theme? And we just have to be really good at doing what they tell us to do and how to convey that idea. And then after everything's like set, that's when we really dive into, what did Matisse stand for? What is this part of the show? That's when they actually start telling us. They're kind of more like, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process.
We'll tell you everything later.
And then we get to like after San Antonio, and they're like, okay, here's what the show is, by the way. Yeah, it's like after San Antonio, like we broke the record at San Antonio last year, and we still we were all like, what is this show? What is this? We have no clue what we're doing. We're just executing our show at a high level. It's all it is. That's all it is. Then we get to Mississippi, and we're like, oh, this is
why we build this set. And this is why we move like this. Or
whatever, this set is making the snail. Okay. Oh, and then this set, that's what's happening.
Makes
and
this
then
painting.
you're in the horn line, and you're like, I got my show. Then you look at the guard after Mississippi, and you're like, oh, that's what they're doing. Like, there
especially
was
like the little phrases. Like, did you guys ever understand the phrases that in the beginning, like the whole like
how small a thought it takes to fill
how small
to
fill a hole? Yes. Absolutely. Like,
same
were you guys hearing that and being like, the hell?
We didn't even know what she was saying until like 3 or 4 weeks in. Then we were like, oh, that's what that means. Because low-key, I didn't think it was English at first. Because it was like, it's in such a high register, and it's like all kind of like spread out, where I'm like, is this English? I don't even know.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and then same with at the end of the first movement, when we are building the set and the percussion feature, we didn't know who that French guy was. We were like, what is this? And again, we get to Mississippi, and they're like, oh, by the way, this is what this speech is. This is during World War II. This is a huge time in Matisse's life. This is when like everything starts going crazy for Matisse, and that's how we get into this next section of the show. And we're like, oh, okay.
So you know how to like portray what needs to happen in that moment now, instead of just like trying to execute your show and just get through it. Now you're performing, you're owning it, you're making it your own.
Yeah. And also at that point, that's when, like, if you're a rookie or a first year member or whatever you want to call it, at that point, that's when you really are like, oh, I know how to read this form. I'm at the front of the form, but you can almost feel the people behind you, and you know when you're on and when you're not on. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like you can see foot timing errors. Like for me, it took me a little along. There was one guy named Jacob Lancaster, and it was, I think, somewhere in like Colorado. We were all doing circle drill. We were all sitting down, and he was like, foot timing. We're doing circle drill, and we're watching. Like, my little quadrant's watching. He's like, foot timing errors, spacing error, foot timing, spacing.
Yeah.
Oh, he missed the step off a little bit. Oh, his pivot was pretty bad, and he's
the
right
timing of the downbeat.
And I'm just like, how do you see this? And he's like, it's really just experience and whatever. Like,
doing it a lot,
you'll get it eventually. And then then we get to Hattiesburg, and this is in Pennsylvania, I think. This is like really late in the season, and we're doing circle drill again. And I'm like, I see it. I see the foot timing here. Wait, I see this. I see it. And at that point, we're really good. So foot timing is not that hard
to catch. If there's
but I'm able to catch it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it. And so it's like you just develop a vision for it as well.
Yeah.
So we get to finals, and it's like our spacing is going to be damn near perfect, and the way we perform the show is going to be damn near perfect, and the way that we know at every single point of the show, it's like, this is what we're trying to portray. This is what we're trying to do. It's just like. The staff knows how to develop the already extremely high talent it's a recipe for success, really. And
Yeah,
you
the big
know,
thing I
yeah.
hear is like they instill that confidence into the membership, and like,
Hmm.
and there
Hmm.
is push, but what I've heard from Joey and so many other people who have marched there, it's just like they put the confidence in us. It's not like a hey, you need to like we're here as your staff to enforce like whatever. It's like no, no, no,
Hmm.
no. You were picked and you were contracted here for a reason because we like another thing I think is cool too is their whole vision. They have such a vision ahead of time as a staff of like
Yeah.
we're picking you not for who you are right now, but who we see potentially like what we can see potentially for finals night. Like
Yeah.
we're looking at like what can you be on August 12th, August
Exactly.
13th,
Yeah,
whatever, you
even
know?
it was February. We just had finished up our February camp, and that's what it
Yeah.
was. That's what it was. Like Chip sat down the trumpet section, especially, and he was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this year, like this is kind of the focus that we have for the trumpet section. It's not going to be, last year we had amazing soloists in pretty much every part of the show. We're not
Yes.
really going to have that this year. Like it's going to be very
Mm,
much a section focus,
we're
and it's
getting
going to be like,
details right now.
oh, I probably shouldn't have. I probably shouldn't have said that. It's okay.
We can cut it if we
Yeah,
need
that's
to.
good. Okay. Well, Chip was basically like, last year was a different group. We're going to have a very different focus for this year. Again, just remember, like, he auditioned personally, like 83 people. And he was
Wow.
like, just so you know, like, about half this section is brand new. So there's about 12 to 14 of y'all that are brand new to this section
Right.
out of like almost 130. So if there's any doubt at all, just know that there shouldn't be. So yeah, very much a confidence booster
You're
there. Where
here for a reason.
he was like, yeah, if you're here, you belong here.
Yeah.
There was so much competition, and then
Don't worry
again,
about it.
they're like we only care about August 12th or August. I think it's August 10th this year. He's like
Right.
Pat even said we were undefeated all last season, and
Yeah.
Pat on semifinals was like the whistle hasn't blown yet. It's not over.
Yeah.
Again,
Exactly.
we broke the record in San Antonio. He's like, the whistle's not blown yet.
Cool. We're
Season's
not
not
done.
over. Like, we could
Job's
lose
not finished.
tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. And that was a huge
Sure.
thing for us last year. That's what I was kind of going out for section leader this year a little bit. And that's what I tried to instill in the trumpet section this February as well. Where I was
Yeah.
like, a big reason I think we were so successful is because last year we didn't talk about other corps. We didn't.
Right.
We tried not to. It's us versus us, and the
Yes.
job's not finished, and the whistle
Yeah.
hasn't blown, and it's all that. Like all we care about is getting to World Championship Indianapolis Finals. That's all we
I
care
think that's
about.
what so many
We.
corps get caught up in. I've talked to
Mhm.
people who have marched at these other high level finalist corps, and so much of it is like them focusing on like we need to get ahead of this group, or we need to
We
like
need to beat
make
the
it to
Blue
this
Devils. We
spot.
need to beat the Blue
We need to
Devils.
win. And like when they do that and they focus on the winning aspect more than just, hey, we need to do us as a core. Like when they don't
Hmm.
do that, you see it in the results. But then
Hmm.
when you hear about a season where they're like, hey man, we just locked in on us the whole season and what we can put on and like putting out the best product for us. And when we do that,
Hmm.
the results show for themselves,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's just like I wanted to ask about it because it was like the mindset on tour when you're in first place the whole time and to be like, no, I mean, job's not finished. We still have a lot of work to do tomorrow, and we're looking for like. I think something they said in the video was just like on semifinals, they're like, you can't peak until tomorrow night. Like this
Hmm.
thing can't plateau
Hmm.
until you get called for. Until we're at the finals block. Like we
Yeah.
can't. You
Yeah.
can't plateau. You can't stop. There's always going to be something that we need to fix for us.
Yeah. Yeah, a big thing that we do after every single show is we block it up, and then you air rep something that you messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a huge thing where it's like even on semis, we block it
Yeah.
up, and then we practice something that we could have done better. And
Yeah.
usually there is something. Now, of course, when you get to that point, like there's a few shows where I'm like, I can't think of anything. I was like, I had a pretty damn good run. You know what I'm saying? Or
It's
it's like,
good.
if anything I could fix is like, it's a visual issue that we'll fix
Yeah.
tomorrow. You know? And so we get to it. And yeah, again, a lot of it is a lot of cores were focused on beating us. A lot of cores were this, a lot of cores. And what we were focused on is beating the Blue Devils. The Blue Devils, we were only focused on how do we beat the
Us.
Blue Devils? Yeah.
Yeah.
We scored a 98 like
Cool. How can
point
we beat them?
three on semis. And we're like, how
Yeah.
do we beat them? How do we beat 98.3?
Let's get it again.
98.3 is a higher score than a lot of winning shows, and that was on
Right.
semis for us. Our
So
our
it's like
our prelims run was a higher score than a lot of winning shows
prelims.
too.
Yeah.
And we're
Mm-hmm.
like, how do we beat that?
Got
And
to keep
so
going.
we get to finals night, and again, it's like we are not thinking about the blue coats. We are not thinking about Carolina Crown. We're not thinking about Boston. And, list goes in. We're definitely not thinking about like any
and
other
they all are. They're thinking about you guys.
That's all they think about.
Right.
Well, I can't speak for them. I don't know what they're thinking about. I can't talk. I just know what we're thinking about. And again, that's a big thing. The Blue Coats can, it's competitive. If Blue Coats want to say bad things about us or they want to talk shit, cool. If Carolina Crown wants to talk shit, cool. It's a competition. Yeah. It's fun. It's cool to trash talk. It's cool to like want to win. But for us, like a big thing, especially this year that I'm trying to like keep from last year is it's us versus us. Like
that's it. Yeah.
Like we're not going to say anything bad about other cores. We're not going to trash talk. We're not going to stoop to that level. We're not going to even really think about them.
I mean, you guys have an opportunity to three-peat this summer.
Exactly.
That could also be an outside factor that could be in the way of like, we have the opportunity to three-peat or get the highest score or whatever. And we could be thinking about that, but it's like, whatever you just think about, we need to put the best product on the field that is the best Blue Devils product.
Yeah. We're not going to think about that. We don't even have to think about last year BD. It's just like, how can we be the best version of ourselves ever? Like whenever Chip did sit us down and talk to the Trumpets, he's like, every single year we go in and we can say, how can we be the best core to ever exist? The best Blue Devils ever. And that's the goal every season. And the goal every season is on finals night, can we be the best Blue Devils that ever existed?
Ever.
And that's always the goal. It's always the goal. And so I definitely think that us versus us mentality is the reason we end up being so successful. On top of all the other millions of reasons that Blue Devils is successful. Like, it's definitely the cherry on top that makes everything so much easier. Because, if we're being honest, it wasn't close last year. It wasn't.
And, you guys had that in the bag the whole year.
Yeah. Like, it stinks. I'm going to be honest. It kind of stinks. Because I wish it was close. For me, like, I think that part of competition is, like, I almost want to, like, lose a show or two. I want to
have a little motivation.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe this sounds super cocky. But it is kind of like that. It's like, I feel like undefeated is a little bit boring, where it's like
exterior motivation would be cool to see someone creeping up on you, or like, let's just say like, Crown's Brass beats you one night or something like that, or just something exterior. We're like, all right, cool. That's going to fire the flame for tomorrow.
Yeah. I think the internal motivation is definitely good. And internal motivation is what you want rather than external. Right. Like if you're in second place all season, that kind of sucks because like you want to have the internal motivation, but the external motivation of, we're so close is a huge thing that can actually weigh you down. But for us, it's like we almost have none of that and it's all internal, which you want at the end of the day is you want the internal, not the external. And so, but because of that, like our semifinal score was higher than second place on finals. So it's like, I was a little bit disappointed going into finals and even going into retreat where I'm like, I'm not really worried about the result. Like,
no, I'm now just like celebrating it.
Exactly. And honestly, it was a little bit underwhelming. We're like 2019, I was like, to win a world championship, that's probably gonna be the best feeling ever. And then I get there and I'm like, okay.
We're undefeated.
Yeah. I was like, that's cool, I guess.
Damn. I was curious about the finals week just in general because so many people have talked about it before that I know that have marched with BD. We've all seen the videos before of just the Blue Devils like runs in the Colts facility, in the Colts practice facility. And like watching the video again, like you can see you guys get there for the first time, get off the bus and the doors are open and you walk into that practice facility and like everyone's just like, you can feel it. Like, could you feel that when you pulled up to the lot and you're just like, it's finals week, you get into the Colts practice facility and you're like, I have watched as a kid the videos of the other Blue Devils cores that have been on this exact field that I'm about to be on. Yeah. And like, I heard from Joey that, the whole staff comes back around for finals week. So that big scaffolding, like they just take up that whole thing. So it's just like one big, like, what is that experience like?
I was even on BD360 whenever we did a ride, and I was one of the people, and I was like, you see so many YouTube videos, and you see all your like heroes, and you see this, and now you're here. You are that person. Like, I think people have to realize in Blue Devils, you get lost because like you're in the activity and you're doing things, but it's like so many people are looking up to you. There's people watching that BD360 where for me, it's a surreal moment because, oh my gosh, I'm finally here because I know all these people. There's people that have watched BD360 that are going to have that same feeling like 3 or 4 years down the line because they're going to be the same thing.
They're going to want to do it. They're going to want to make it there.
Yeah, there's a kid out there that's watching BD360 and he sees me talking about my childhood, and how I loved the Colts facility. He's going to watch that or he or she or whatever. And then, again, 4 years, they're going to show up and they're going to feel the same way. So
Right.
it's cool to say that the cycle is going to continue itself. But finals week is really just a celebration, right?
Yeah.
They're like, we're not going to change anything. We're going to rehearse the same way we always rehearse. We're going to do the same pedagogy we always do. Like, and I mean,
All the way to the end.
last year was pretty good. We're going into prelims with like a 96, and so the whole point was like, how do we get those last 4 points?
Yep.
How is it? It's like,
where are they?
So like all of our sectionals were like, we're going to break it down to wherever there's a quarter, there's an eighth of the people playing, and we're going to see where's the dirt. Where's the dirt?
Yep.
Like, because they say it's like it's a pool analogy where it's like a dirty pool.
Yeah.
Everything's dirty. Everything's dirty. Like the ground, it's all murky. There's stuff in the water. It's all gross. But ironically, as the pool gets cleaner, it's easier to see what is dirty and what isn't.
Right.
And so what happens is that we get to there and we're at 96 points.
Yep.
But it's that much easier to see who's messing up because everything else is almost
perfect.
Dang near perfect.
Basically, almost.
Where it's like our triple tonguing feature. It's like, if your triplets are just a little bit slow, we will hear that. If you're tonguing a little bit too hard, we'll know. If you're a little bit too loud, we'll know. You got to change that. We got to fix that. And so it's really just like, how can we clean the pool as much as possible to then see more dirt, to then get rid of that dirt as best as possible. And so that's what our finals week is really. And again, but we don't change anything because we start doing that process day one, Like
it's
that's
the same thing.
That's the approach every single day is, where's the dirt? How do we get rid of it? Where's the dirt? How do we get rid of it?
Same thing, the same way the first time. And that's the recipe. That's it. You guys win in 22. You're there for 23. You guys win. So, I mean, you're winning, but something about 23 and kind of watching the videos, hearing from you, and then also hearing from Joey just on that summer specifically, it just seems like it was such a special summer, and it's not to put anything down about 22 or anything like that. It just seems like this summer, like you're talking about the perfect storm of things that went wrong in 22, this seems like the perfect storm of things that just went right. What do you think made this summer in 23 such a special summer?
I mean, don't get me wrong. There were problems. And like, especially for me, it was such a different environment. I actually had a pretty rough summer, like all things said and done. For me, it's like being a Blue Devil was amazing. But being with and around the Blue Devils sometimes was really hard. I think in 23, there was a lot of ego problems.
Real?
And, that happens when you're at a top core.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's like, I had a huge time where I came from Vanguard where it's like family, Genesis, family, we're this. And then at Blue Devils, it's very much not really that. I think we're trying to kind of go down that route this year, which is nice. But then it was like, there's a thing called second year vet syndrome. There was kind of a lot of that. We've
talked about it a lot on here.
Yeah. There's kind of a lot of that. There's just some things here and there where it's like, okay, this is a pretty tough summer for me. I had a hard time kind of like fitting in sometimes. And it wasn't until this year where I'm like, I thought I was the problem actually for a long time. I was like, I think I'm doing something wrong. I think there's something wrong with me. But going into this summer and after like January and February, I'm like,
more comfortable.
I don't think I was the problem. Like, I really don't. Like, a lot of those people are gone, and I'm like, I feel better about myself. And, I'm more into it, and I'm around people that are super supportive. And being able to talk to some other people about last season, I'm like, no, I don't think there was like anything wrong with me. I think I was trying my best. And honestly, in respect to the people that did kind of make it a hard summer, again, I think they were doing the best with what they had. I don't think there was any malicious intent to it. I think it's just sometimes people don't clash.
It could be coming off of COVID too, because a lot of those people who came off of 21, 22, their idea of what drum corps is.
Yeah, and not only that, some people, that was their first ever experience in drum corps is Blue Devils 22.
Just crazy,
it's like,
bro.
It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. So, but going back to your actual question now, it's like being a Blue Devil, probably the best thing I've ever experienced. Like whenever we got to Wyoming again, so we did spring training in Wyoming, we left, and then we got back to Wyoming. Zach Carrasco, who's one of the Viz techs, really good, really awesome guy. He finally told me, he's like, that rep, I think, was the first time I've seen you truly perform like a Blue Devil, Matthew. Like, good job. Right. And so that felt amazing. And ever since then, it's like just so good. And just learning the show and learning the process and learning that and everything, it really just was a perfect storm of like everything going right. Where it's like,
Absolutely.
I think at the right time, we peaked at the right times. We got
Yeah.
better at the right times. We focused on the right things we fixed the things that we needed to fix at the right time too.
Absolutely.
Like, for most of the season, it was like we could go to an ensemble, and ensemble could be the most distracted we had been. Ensembles where the whole chore's there, and we're
Yeah.
all talking the whole time. We're goofing off. We're doing this, whatever. But then we get to a point in the season where we're like, "Hey, we gotta lock in a little bit. We're gonna have silent
Yeah.
ensembles from here on out." And I think that was the perfect time to add silent ensembles. It's like,
And everyone gets that. Everyone understands the message.
yeah. At that point, we're like, "Oh yeah." I mean, we're
We
we're
should lock
probably,
in.
especially at this point,
We need to.
we can be the best
Yeah.
ever if we
Let's
just
not
lock in
let
a little
the
bit.
distractions get in the way.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like even if we didn't do silent ensemble, I think the result could have been the same, but I think it definitely just
Sends
solidified
the
it that much
message.
more. Yeah. And it was
Mhm.
so easy because as soon as we implemented that, boom. Okay.
Locked
Yeah,
in.
we just do silent ensemble and everyone bought in at the same time.
Yep.
Everyone bought it
Again,
same day.
same thing, the same way the first time.
Yes.
It's just like,
And
oh my
so,
God.
yeah, just everything went the way it needed to, and like interpersonal relationships, that's always going to be a huge factor. But the actual like Blue Devils thing, really good. It all just worked.
I want to ask 3 questions to kind of wrap out the interview here, kind
Yeah.
of, maybe reflecting and looking forward a little bit into this last summer for you. But first question I kind of want to ask is, what have you learned about yourself so far on this journey in drum corps?
I am an extrovert. For a long time, especially like freshman and sophomore year of high school, the same time where I wasn't marching, by the way.
Yeah.
Freshman, sophomore high school, I had very low confidence in myself. I was like, I'm an introvert. I'm going to be on my own. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not going to talk to people. I have like 3 or 4 friends. That's it.
Yeah.
I did drum corps, and that broke me out of my shell so much. Like,
Yes.
I'm just a different person. Well, okay, I'm not a different person when I'm there, but it turned me into kind of the person
confidence
that I
that it
want to be.
instills.
Yeah, it instilled such confidence where I became a different person. Like junior year, I was one person. Going to drum corps, I was a different person, and then going to senior year, I was now that person. I was confident. I walked around the school like, I don't care. Like, what are you gonna say to me, bro? Like, I really don't care. And it wasn't a malicious thing. It wasn't even a cocky thing. It was more just like, I'm friends
This
with everyone.
confidence I have in myself now. I know who I am.
I'm saying hi to everyone in the hallway. I'm able to have conversation with everybody. I'm able to speak to people. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Is it just gave me such a sense of self-esteem, really, and confidence in myself. Where I'm like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things, and I think it's just been getting more and more and more as I go. Where it's like, when I made Vanguard, I'm like, I'm one of the best in the activity. Like, Vanguard's really good, and I just made that, and they think that I'm good. I'm like, I am a really good performer. Like, I had never been very good at anything ever in my life.
Yeah.
And then I made Santa Clara Vanguard, and I'm like, wait a second. Oh my goodness. It's fun to be good at something, And then again, the same thing with Blue Devils. It's even more so, where it's like, I come back and I'm like, wait, I just won a world championship. And it's like, just walking into Kroger at my house, I'm like, I can just walk, and I'm like, these people can't do anything to me. Like, they could call me a loser. I wouldn't care.
I don't
care. It's like none of these people could hurt me. And then I'm gonna be honest, there were some problems of like self-confidence, because slowly but surely I remembered my summer, and I was like, well, the people that don't matter can say whatever they want. Like, I'm not going to worry about it. But it's the people that really did matter, like the other Blue Devils, where it's like, I really cared about how they felt about me. And that really destroyed my confidence in many ways too.
Exactly.
Where I was so worried
about what they think.
About what they thought. Yeah. And so that was actually the biggest confidence killer, where, I could walk into Kroger. I don't care what you're going to say to me. I could walk into any place with strangers. Don't care. I'm still going to be the same thing. I'm going to smile at you. I'm going to say hi. I'm going to make conversation. I'm going to be my same usual self. But then I get to environment like the Blue Devils, and I just I feel terrible about myself. Like, I actually felt terrible about myself. Felt like I was useless. I was not worth it. Anything like that.
Is it like an imposter syndrome kind of deal where it's just like,
No, no, because I don't think it was a skill thing either. I think it was literally just I cared so much about how they felt of me as a person and
wow.
as a performer and as maybe even a potential leader, or what they thought about me of like, man, I hope they don't think I'm a jerk. Hope they don't think I'm an asshole for any. I hope they don't think I have a huge ego or anything. Like I was so scared about literally every little aspect that they possibly could maybe think about me. And it isn't until like, we get to January, we get to February, it's a new vibe, and I can kind of relax. I'm like, no, I'm fine.
We're
and
good
so
here.
I'm building up that confidence slowly but surely again, which is really nice. The people that are still there are very good at supporting me and helping me feel great about myself again. So that's cool. But yeah, dude, like November, December, I was like, I don't even know if I want to march again because I feel like my self-confidence kind of down the drain, at least around the Blue Devils. So it was tough. But as a whole, drum corps has really helped me break out of my shell, be an extrovert. It helps me with time management. It helps me with, when I put my mind to something, I know I can do it now.
You can do it.
Yeah. Like DrumCorpsLink was a big thing where it's like, I had already done drum corps and it was still hard. It was like, man, like I want to do this thing, but I can't really feel it. And then, you do Blue Devils and you're like, you do Blue Devils. And I'm like, I can do it. I can accomplish hard things. So I'm going to put everything I can into DrumCorpsLink, and I've been able to do it. And it's grown so much more since.
Right. And then that just translates to all of life. Like whatever you need to do in your life, you're just like, I've done really hard things at a high level. I can take care of this.
Yeah. Even at something like the Blue Stars, Blue Knights, Carolina Crown, Boston, even non-top 12 corps, Music City, Madison Scouts, anything. If you get through a drum corps summer, you've done the hard thing. You've done a very hard thing. You've accomplished something that most people cannot accomplish ever in their lives.
Or would even go out to like try out or do.
Exactly.
Like, the hardest part is just to get out there and do it.
So it's that. It's like you got to be able to build that self-confidence, to become more of that person, build the self-esteem, is to understand any victory. Even if it's like 20th place in an open class corps. Yeah. You did a drum corps summer. You auditioned. Right. You marched a show that was like 8 minutes long. You spent like 50 days working on that craft and perfecting it as best as you could, and you gave a ton of effort every single day. You did accomplish something. You should
take that back to your life. You're like, I put days after days, hours after hours, whatever, just putting into this one thing to make it the best we could possibly make it. You do that with anything in your life.
Yeah.
Like it's that with life, it's a life lesson of like, this thing's a journey. It's not a race to get there. There is steps. There's a process to get to greatness.
Yeah. And people might call me a dorky band kid, but I'm like,
we all are at the end of the day. We're paying thousands of dollars to go do band. Come on. Don't call anyone a dorky band kid. Yeah. My second question here before we round out.
Let's do it.
Might be a tough one, but we'll see. But what's something that you still love about the activity so far in your experience? Is kind of a two-parter here. What's something you still love about the activity? And then something you might want to see change or get better about the activity?
One thing I still love is the fact that I get to perform and the fact that I'm still pushing myself to be the best. As soon as the performance cap comes on and it's time to perform in front of an audience, like it just becomes that much easier to be the best in the world. Like I've been doing this since 2019, which this year I'm actually going to be the oldest person in the Blue Devils, which is funny because the bonus year is June 1st. That's the cutoff, and my birthday is June 3rd. So because of that, like technically January 1st is June 1st, or June 1st is January 1st, and so I'm basically January 3rd. I'm one of the first people there, so I'll be like the oldest there. Not a lot of people have marched now. Pre-2020, nobody really marched 2019. So it's like, I've got a lot of years on my experience. I'm still growing, but also I love being really good at something. It's nice.
Yeah.
And I am scared. I'm going to age out eventually. Like this is my last year. So I've got to put it to the fullest extent. Right. But it's so nice being able to perform again. And also like, I'm still pushing myself. Like we got to February and I'm like, damn, like this visual staff is still kicking my butt because they're still giving us stuff that's really hard to do. And I'm trying my best and I'm doing a decent job at executing. It's still just so hard. They're still just they're always pushing us, even at February camp,
Right.
That's what I love, is that I'm still growing. One thing I wish I could change about the activity, if I'm being honest, honestly, there's two things. One, the affordability.
Absolutely. 100%.
And how much it costs.
Yeah.
It's really tough. There are so many people that are extremely talented that should be in this activity, but they cannot be in the activity because of money, which really stinks. Like, I even had a student, whenever I was talking about my coaching service, I had somebody that signed up for coaching because they could pay the $50, and I worked with them, and they did a really good job, and then they saw the price tag of the core they wanted to audition for, and they're like, well, I can't do this actually.
Can't pay for it.
And that student was really good. They sounded really good. They marched really well, and they can't do it. And I'm like,
damn, dude.
Well,
let's find some money for this kid.
Exactly. And like, there's no way, and there's nothing I could have done either, because I've got to pay for my own, and so it's really tough. So affordability is one. And then another thing, maybe some people might disagree with me on this one. I think the whole rookie vet thing is kind of annoying. I really hated it. It might be a self-confidence thing. It might be something. But when I went in last year and I got called a rookie, I kind of sat kind of unwell with me, because at that point, still, not a lot of people in 2023 had marched previously in 2019 either. And they get called a rookie by somebody that, like, their first year was 2022. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? Like, I was in a top 5 core last year, and I had marched 2 seasons before this. Like, and so I'm like, I just don't understand where that comes from.
I think part of that's a second year vet culture coming from.
It definitely was, and there was a lot of that in 23, which definitely stunk a lot. But it's okay. For me, it's like, I know there are high school programs, and there are even some drum corps that are so good at fostering and immediately integrating the newer members that, like, rookie, vet, who really cares?
Doesn't matter.
Like, I think the only thing you should really say to newer members is, hey, if you are ever lost, ask a question or look at a vet. Like, that's the only time where it's like, yeah, there should be a little bit of self-accountability. If you don't know what's going on, look at somebody that has done it before, because they've probably gone through the experience once or twice. But at the same time, it's like, I'm looking at, like I said in February, like, I was being pushed quite a bit. I'm looking at the across the floors that we're doing for marching and visual, and I'm like, you can't really tell that much. I'm like, these people are new. Sometimes you can see it a little bit. The only thing at BD that you see a difference between rookie and vet, sure, there's here and there like execution things, but there are also some rookies that can execute really well. It's the way that they move. It's the inherent confidence that's in you.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, like, it's literally the difference between this and this.
Yep. Yeah, just like, that lift from the center of the chest.
Here's my first year. There's nothing wrong with my posture. I look really good. And then this is my second year at Blue Devils. Yeah, that's the big dip. That's the only difference. So it's like, it can be big, it can be small, it can be whatever. And I can only really speak to Blue Devils because it's the first time I'm like truly like a vet, where it's like I do 2 years in a row, right?
Yes.
But I really don't like the whole thing of, oh, you're a rookie, you have no clue what you're doing. It's like, well, by the time we get to spring training, like,
I've done this.
Exactly. Like, they're at roughly the skill level. They have the foundation that they need. They do. The only thing is, like, our spring training is a little bit different than where you're from. Our process is a little bit different, but you learn that mostly in the camps. It's like, I think that was the one thing where it's like, if we could get rid of the rookie vet, second year vet syndrome, anything like that, like, the better we can get at integrating these new people in the core, the easier it's going to be. And
just worrying about everybody getting on the same page. Don't worry about this whole seniority.
And honestly, I don't think I'm going to be on leadership this year. I'm not really sure. I think there was like 2 of us that were kind of going out for it. The other candidate, so good, dude. I love this guy. So I really don't care if I'm section leader or not. But I feel like the job that I'm trying to portray is to get any of the new members just like fully comfortable and fully integrated. Because I know as soon as I was comfortable, I became that much better, that much faster, because I felt comfortable to go for it.
Yeah, and to be yourself.
Exactly.
While you're doing that. Yeah.
And so it's like, the faster you can just get these newer members, the rookies, the whatever, as soon as you can get them to feel like a Blue Devil, or feel like a Blue Coat, or feel like a Carolina Crown member, or feel like a Genesis member or any of these cores, as soon as you can get them to feel like they are there, that's you're golden.
Confidence
You're
just
golden.
skyrockets. They
Because
can be
then it's
themselves.
then it's everyone's just a Blue Devil.
Yep.
We're not worried. Oh, this guy's a second-year vet. This guy's a third-year vet. She's a rookie.
They're a Blue
He's a
Devil, whatever.
rookie. She's a 3-year vet. We're all Blue Devils. Simple as
That's
that.
what it is.
As soon as you can get to that, that's when we all play together really easily. That's when we all move together. That's when everything just locks in. And usually, and especially last year, that didn't really happen until probably around like Colorado or Broken Arrow. Like even in the first couple shows, it was still kind of the same thing. You still feel a little bit uncomfortable. So,
like, am I really doing this thing for real with these guys?
Exactly. And I think by San Antonio, we all kind of felt it. And especially by Mississippi, we're all like, yeah, we're here. Like,
we're on the same page. This is us.
It's like, you're going to call me a rookie? Bro, I just beat the San Antonio record. Like,
right,
we all just did that.
We're doing it together.
So it's like,
we're all here.
Why call me a rookie at this point, And that's for anybody. So
100%. My last question here, rounding out. This has been an incredible conversation, incredible interview.
I agree.
I love hearing from like a current member now because we've had people on who have marched before, and it's cool to hear perspectives of like now versus like my era of 2016 to 2020, and then even before that back to like 2012 up to 2016. Hearing different perspectives from everybody. This is why I love doing this thing, because everyone has a different story. Like Joey coming on talking about his 2023 season is different from yours. Both of these are valid. It's just really awesome getting to hear everybody's perspective on this. And this is why I love doing this. Everyone, you march the same places as some people, but people have everyone has a unique perspective in this activity. And I think that's what's so special about it at the end of the day. You, on your last year here, BD24, what are you most excited about for your age out?
So you know this as someone who's aged out in the activity. Now, I'm not sure if you definitely probably didn't know that 2019 was going to be your last year, which is definitely unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
But any age out kind of knows this, where like you can tell the 18-year-olds, the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, like, hey, your age out's going to be like this, and like make sure you savor it, and make sure you're savoring all the moments right now too, and this and that, and like you gotta really remember it and save it. You don't truly understand until you're there,
Right.
And so it's like, I'm an age out now. This is my last summer. Like, I was coming back from February camp, and it was it was a sad, bittersweet kind of feeling, but it was also very similar to Genesis. The first time I like cried at Genesis on day 3, where it's like, this activity is just so special, and I'm
remembering why I do this.
Exactly. And so I'm like, it was such a huge thing of just full of emotions, where it's like, I'm so happy that I get to do it one last time, and also I'm sad it's my last time ever doing this. Like, I will never prepare to go to a February camp again. I will never prepare an audition. I will never go to a callback camp ever again. I will never talk to the other members and like, oh, where have you marched before? And where have you done this? And like, oh, dude, sick. I hope I can.
Like, this group's
I hope I can march with you.
man.
It's like, yeah, this is the group. These are the people I'm going to spend my last ever summer with. And so, yeah, just that feeling of being an age out, knowing it's my last time ever to do this. And yeah, all the age outs that came before me that talked to me about it, they were 100% right. It's like, you just got to put it all out there. Try not to take control of the summer too much. That's something that I'm trying to tell myself. Of course, there's a few things that I really want to be able to instill in the people that are going after me, right? Like, again, the first year thing, and then also just like the us versus us. Those are the two things where I'm like, if I can just focus on those two things, I'm cool. I'm not going to try to control anybody. I'm not going to try to control the whole summer. I'm not going to try to sabotage anything by like being I'm going to do my own thing. And those are the two things that I'm going to preach all summer, basically. And yeah, I get to soak it all in. Every free day is going to be a vacation for me, because I'm going to be feeling it. I promise you. My fifth actual summer marching and my 6th year in the activity, I'm like, I get to just finally chill
100%.
and do my own thing. So it's just experiencing what it's like to be an age out and to do it for the last time ever. Like, there's going to be a lot of tears. That's for
100%. I mean, that last first show, that last family day, that last, like, San Antonio, the last dude, the last Allentown, the last.
There's going to be a lot. So I'm just like, I'm excited for it. I'm just ready to experience all of it,
100%.
So that's probably what I'm most excited for. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, we're going to have more people on before tour. The whole goal is to bring more people who are marching this summer on. Obviously, I want to bring people who have marched before, just, not in the activity, whatever. I'm trying to get all of the staff, people who have marched before, whatever. It's all about the story. But, goal is to get a couple more people on too who are marching this summer as well. So we can keep up with you guys and your story. And, that's going to be so cool. The whole process of an age out. That's going to be awesome. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what you guys do on the field. I'm excited to see what you can do for your age out. That's going to be awesome. Absolutely. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 19 of the Meet the Bus podcast with Matthew Ida. This has been awesome, an incredible conversation. I'm glad I get to talk to a current member right now, just to kind of keep up with the loop, see what's going on in the activity right now. You guys can catch him out on tour this summer with BD, with Blue Devils this summer. That's going to be so fun. We will definitely keep up with it. We're going to try to, me and the team, we're definitely going to try to go out and see all our people. So, maybe we can catch a little interview, something like that, just on the side, post-show interview
totally
or something like that.
Yeah, I'm totally
100%.
down.
By the time this airs, there will be, well, first off, let's say a thank you again to our lovely editor, Eric. Love Eric. He's been with us since the beginning. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, we could not do what we do on this podcast without Eric being here. So everyone, big thanks to Eric. Everyone comment down below. Big thanks to Eric. But by the time this airs, we will have a new editor, and there will be an announcement about that. I'm very excited to see what we do moving forward. We've had a lot of great people reach out about wanting to help out, and it's very exciting about the future to see how many people reached out wanting to help out with this thing. I really didn't think that this many people would be listening right now, but this is cool that we're creating this community that we have. So, I appreciate you guys for listening, watching, whatever, sharing with your friends. I really appreciate it. And I think we're going to wrap on that. So, Matthew, thank you for coming on. This has been incredible. Loved having the conversation. With that, this has been episode 19 of the Meet the Bus podcast. And we'll see you guys next week.